Chapter 3277. Boss, Portia was just a normal person half a year ago. I don't think she can complete your tasks. Zevra didn't want Portia to take the risk. Even though Portia had awakened for a while, Portia still didn't have the resolve to fight. She was just a normal person who suddenly had strange powers. Portia's awakened ability was actually very strong. At least it had great potential. Theoretically, if she had enough fragrance, she might be able to fight Chun Zhao before her body collapsed. If the entire earth was planted with tulips, however, apart from randomly using her abilities, Portia had never been able to use them. She hadn't participated in a real battle even once. She accepted Chun Zhao's tasks with this level. Was she kidding? However, Portia, who was red from owing money, couldn't care less anymore. I'll do it. Portia had always been like this. She didn't need to think about most things. To her, solving the problem in front of her was the most important. She would only be afraid of danger when she faced it. Boss. Zevra looked at Chun Zhao helplessly. Fine. I'll go with Portia too. Very good. Your reward is $100,000 per mission. This was what Chun Zhao had been waiting for. Wait, why is Zevra's pay so much higher than mine for the same mission? Pooh. Portia clutched her stomach and wailed on the ground. Zevra moved her knuckles. Is this reason enough? Oh, you could have told me in a more peaceful way. Portia said in pain. I'm just afraid that you don't understand. Zevra sighed. This little bitch really wasn't afraid of death. She just had to cause trouble everywhere. Chun Zhao had even become friends with her. Now, he had to carry a gun for her again. Be her babysitter. This feeling was really annoying. Zevra took the documents Chun Zhao handed her. Boss, these 3 missions shouldn't be difficult for you, right? Maybe you can finish them in a day. Chun Zhao pointed at a stack of documents not far away. These are the missions I'm responsible for. 3 missions in a day was already very inefficient for Chun Zhao. Zevra stopped talking. Don't tell me you're taking on all the missions from the Supernatural Organization. Not all of them, but most of them. The Supernatural Organization has a lot of missions, and they'll need to go out for a while, so I have to let them have a peaceful holiday. Portia, you must listen to my orders completely when carrying out the commission. If you dare to disobey my orders, Zevra, you can kill her. I'll hire the best lawyer for you. Portia hissed at Chun Zhao and grinned. When would he be able to escape from the clutches of this devil boss? But when he thought about the money he owed, Portia felt that her future was filled with darkness. He owed Chun Zhao $25 million half a year ago. In the past 6 months, not only did she not pay him back, but she also borrowed money from him many times. Including the interest, it was already $2 million USD. It was impossible to resist, not even in this lifetime. Chun Zhao didn't have to worry about Zevra following Portia. After all, Zevra had fought a dragon before. Moreover, he was a dragon slayer in the truest sense. The missions they accepted weren't difficult either. At least they weren't disaster level or disaster level. Out of the 3 missions, the only one that was slightly difficult was the first night of awakening. Chun Zhao felt that this mission was the most time-consuming. Last time, Portia had awakened on the first night too. Then, there was the difficulty of at least the 3rd night. So this time, Chun Zhao reminded Zevra, if she really ran into trouble, call him. That night, Chun Zhao received Zevra's call. But it wasn't to ask for help. Instead, it was to report on the mission. The mission for the first night of awakening had been completed. This mission was rather challenging, but there were no accidents. It was indeed a normal night of awakening. The client was the spiritualist family. They had a certain amount of combat power themselves. So, the first night ended very quickly. As for the other 2 missions, they shouldn't be difficult for Zevra either. The next day, when Zevra and Portia arrived, Chun Zhao noticed that Zevra's expression wasn't right. Zevra, what happened? With a cold expression, Zevra glanced at the awkward Portia. Ask this woman. It seemed that Zevra was really angry this time. Chun Zhao looked at Zevra. Then you explained the situation. Nothing. Didn't we all finish the mission? Portia tried to change the topic. Clearly, she didn't want to talk about what had happened last night. Then, Chun Zhao looked at Zevra. What exactly happened? He believed that Zephyr definitely had a reason. Zephyr was young, but she had a maturity and experience that others her age couldn't compare to. On the other hand, Portia was the opposite. She was childish in every way. Last night, after completing the first night's mission, we went on to the second mission. It was going well, and we sealed the evil spirit. However, this woman actually stole the jewelry from the client's house, and the jewelry she stole turned out to be a magic tool. After I exposed her, she secretly threw the jewelry away, and it just happened to be thrown into the sealing circle. The evil spirit immediately rushed out, and its strength greatly increased. And I almost died there. Chun Zhao was speechless. Portia was even more embarrassed. I saw that the jewelry fell on the ground, and I picked it up for the client. It was so messy, and I was afraid that I wouldn't be able to find it. Zephyr didn't want to talk anymore. Chun Zhao glanced at Portia. I told you yesterday that you should shoot her. Zephyr was too soft-hearted. She knew that if she didn't ask, Portia would definitely run off to do the mission herself for money. She would definitely run off to do the mission for money. By then, it would be hard to say whether she would live or die. I'll give you all her reward for yesterday's mission, Chun Zhao said. How can you do this? Portia immediately wailed. Or you can shoot her now so that she doesn't get in the way again. Portia immediately looked at Zephyr with watery eyes. Forget it. I think she's had enough of a lesson. Just pay her what she deserves. Hearing Zephyr's words, Portia immediately smiled. Zephyr, you're the best. Oh, boss, where's my money? I already deducted this month's interest. What? Boss, what are you talking about? You're saying that I worked all night and didn't get a single cent? Chapter 3278. Portia was already crying from anger. She lay on the ground and threw a tantrum. If he didn't pay, she wouldn't get up today. Then Chun Zhao ignored her. Zevra ignored her too. When she was tired from crying, she went to play games. At noon, she returned to the table as if nothing had happened. Portia, do you still want to do the mission? I don't care. I won't accept it if you don't pay. Did I not pay? I just deducted your payment from the interest. I don't care. I want cash. Check is fine too. Fine. The interest is there anyway. The more you owe, the more you'll have to pay in the future. Portia enjoyed the meal very much. Interest and paying were all in the future. Right now, she just wanted to see money so that she could pay back her credit card. She was an ostrich now. As long as it wasn't in front of her, everything would be fine. In the afternoon, Chun Zhao, Portia, and Zevra were having a barbecue when Navika Lena arrived. Boss, this is the account report sent by Mr. Liu from China. Please take a look. Also, he said in his email that he's already obtained the development rights for the Big Quinn Island project. He'll contact you today and talk to you directly. Navika was already Chun Zhao's most important assistant. But she wasn't as close to Chun Zhao's family as Portia and Zevra. For one, she was doing her job. For another, she was just a normal person. So, she didn't know Chun Zhao's family secrets. Okay, thank you. Do you want to stay and eat? No, Navika said. I still have last quarter's financial report. I haven't finished the income and expenditure report yet. She glanced at Portia and Zevra, expressing her disdain for their self-deprecation. If they had the time, they might as well find something else to do. With Chun Zhao's enormous assets, there were too many things he had to deal with. Other than her job, there were many details that she could get commission for. If she helped Chun Zhao negotiate with Northern Gravity Group like last time, the commission she got would be enough for her to work for a few years. Every time she saw Zevra and Portia, they were just playing. She rarely saw them do anything for Chun Zhao. She didn't understand why Chun Zhao could tolerate them. She felt that Chun Zhao could fire Portia and Zafra. Then they would give their salary to him, and he alone could complete the workload of 3 people. After Navika Lena left, Zephyr came out with a stack of missions. Boss, are we going to choose by ourselves this time? All right, if there are any quests that you can do, just accept them. Chun Zhao didn't expect them to complete many missions. Just like yesterday, being able to complete 3 quests in a day was already considered a very good efficiency. It was almost impossible to go any higher. Last night, Chun Zhao had completed 20 missions alone. Moreover, the entire country was flying all over the place. The meeting date between the Supernatural Organization and the Huaxia Special Intelligence Division was approaching. Chun Zhao had almost completed all the missions on his side. This time, other than the outer members, all the core members participated. Chun Zhao booked a private plane for them. Chun Zhao's private jet couldn't fit so many people either. Mr. Chun, I'm Lerby. Are you satisfied with the yachts produced by our company? Not bad, not bad, Chun Zhao said. Then, you said that you want to order 7 more cruises. I'll place an order for 3 this year. If I'm satisfied with the delivery of the 3 ships, I'll place more orders. In addition, I want each ship to have a unique design. This is my gift to every child, so I don't want to repeat the same design. As for the details, you can send someone over to discuss it with my representative. Okay. I'll report it to the company right now. This might be the largest order since Seagate was established. No, it was the largest order for a yacht company in the world, apart from retailers. However, even if the retailer ordered 100 yachts, it would not be enough. The profits probably wouldn't be as great as ordering a super cruise. In less than 2 days, Seagate sent a huge negotiation team. Chun Zhao also called Alex's legal team to take charge of this negotiation. Lerby personally came to Chun Zhao to build a relationship. He was the leader this time because he'd been the one who negotiated the order last time. Seagate naturally thought that he had a good relationship with Chun Zhao, but this wasn't a small business. They could talk about friendship. However, it was impossible for them to make concessions during the negotiation. The current negotiation was naturally on Chun Zhao's side. Alex held the initiative firmly in her hands. After all, this wasn't a fair negotiation in the first place. Chun Zhao was irreplaceable as a consumer, but Seagate wasn't his only choice. Chun Zhao had too many choices. He could switch to a bigger and better company. Actually, Alex's one sentence during the negotiation was enough to make the Seagate representative speechless. If the price is the same, why would our boss choose your company? Talk about feelings? Believe it or not, if word gets out, countless yacht companies will be willing to come and lick our boss's boots. Also, Alex wasn't just saying it. The second day after the negotiation started, she really spread the news. On the same day, she received inquiries from all the top 20 yacht companies in the world. Thus, the Seagate representative kept retreating at the negotiation table. On one hand, they had to grasp this opportunity with all their might. They couldn't just hand over the fat meat that was already in their mouths. Actually, the point of the negotiation was how much their company could earn. It was impossible for them to make a loss. The fact that they could continue the negotiation meant that the price hadn't reached the cost yet. Every 0.1% discount was worth millions of dollars. The negotiation lasted for 20 days. Finally, Alex handed the contract to Chun Zhao. She'd saved Chun Zhao hundreds of millions of dollars in expenses, and he'd paid her handsomely. Chun Zhao was still as busy as a dog every day. Although the backlog of commissions had been cleared, there were still new ones appearing every day. There were quite a lot of them, too. Furthermore, the number of paranormal incidents in the United States had increased exponentially in the past year. Now, Chun Zhao was trying to deal with all the commissions every day. Of course, the time-consuming ones were left to the outer members of the society. On the other hand, the spiritual organizations were accepting a lot of commissions. This actually reduced Chun Zhao's pressure quite a bit. Now, Chun Zhao only hoped that the negotiation could end as soon as possible. But Chun Zhao couldn't rush them. Instead of calling it a negotiation, it was more like giving the supernatural organization a long holiday. Chapter 3279. Hello. Is this the supernatural organization? Yes. Who is it? I'm Sung-gil. I made an appointment with the supernatural organization 2 days ago. From your voice, you should be the one who contacted me. You said you'd help me in 3 days, so I'm calling to ask if you can send someone over to help me. Oh, I remember now. Wait a moment. Chun Zhao quickly flipped through the document. He finally found Seng's document. His daughter seemed to be possessed by a demon. The document was marked as urgent. Chun Zhao had an impression of this. However, he'd had a lot of missions these days, so he'd forgotten about this urgent mission. I'll confirm the address with you. If there's no problem, I'll send someone over. Okay, after confirming the address, Chun Zhao immediately rushed over. Now, he was in charge of accepting and carrying out missions. Soon, he arrived at Seng's residence. Hello, Mr. Sung. I'm from the Supernatural Organization. Seng looked at Chun Zhao. After some thought, he said, You're the one who called me twice, right? Aren't you the operator? Chun Zhao was a bit awkward. I'm also in charge of carrying out missions. Of course, we have a lot of people. You can call me because this area is under my jurisdiction, so most missions are assigned to me. Oh, I see. But you're a professional, right? Yes. Don't worry. I'm a very professional exorcist. Good. Please come in. Sung was quite well off. He lived in a high-end neighborhood. The decorations were more luxurious, too. However, when he reached the bedroom, he saw a lot of messiness and damage. My daughter did it. Seng's expression was serious. When he reached his daughter's door, he asked again to confirm, Mr. Chun, are you sure it's okay? Don't worry. Chun Zhao was very patient with clients. At least, he wouldn't lose his temper at them most of the time. On one hand, they were laymen, so they would naturally be suspicious of the so-called spiritualist and exorcist identity. On the other hand, they or their families were being attacked by supernatural events. They naturally wanted to get rid of the trouble as soon as possible. So it was understandable that they repeatedly confirmed Chun Zhao's abilities and identity. Unless it was the Carlos brothers' trap a few days ago. Only in such a situation would Chun Zhao counterattack. Sengo carefully opened the door handle. Chun Zhao saw his daughter's room. The room, which was originally pink, now looked like it had been invaded by a wild beast. It was a mess, and there were scratch marks everywhere. The walls, the ceiling, the furniture, everything. Lying on the bed was a girl about 10 years old. The girl's hands and feet were spread out, and all 4 of them were tied up. Send was a little scared and worried. Mr. Chun, are you all right? Don't worry. Chun Zhao nodded slightly. I won't joke around with your daughter and your safety. At this moment, the quiet girl suddenly opened her eyes. Following that, the girl's pupils began to turn black. The whole house began to shake. Black liquid flowed under the girl's skin. The girl floated up slightly and faced Chun Zhao, but she seemed unable to break free from the ropes that bound her. Another exorcist? Are you here to die? The girl grinned. She was supposed to be an obedient and adorable young girl, but at this moment, she made one's hair stand on end. My dear father, are you so eager for your daughter to die? Sengo was already paralyzed in front of the door. Mr. Chun, please. Chun Zhao crossed his arms in front of his chest and tapped his chin with his fingers, as if thinking, Mr. Chun, hurry up and exorcise the demon. Wait. Chun Zhao wasn't in a hurry. He had been observing the girl. After a long while, Chun Zhao looked at her. You can devour other people's fear and turn it into your own power, right? I've seen demons like this before. When you try to devour my fear, I felt that it was very familiar. The girl stared at Chun Zhao. Since you know, hurry up and scram. Are you panicking? Or we can talk. Chun Zhao smiled at the girl. Or I can drag you out of the girl's body and talk. As he spoke, Chun Zhao's palm turned into lava, emitting a scorching heat. The lava dripped from Chun Zhao's palm and burned a hole in the wooden floor. You definitely don't want to be dragged out by me, right? Human, if you forcefully pull me out, this girl will die too. You're an exorcist, right? You don't want to see that, right? The demon in the girl's body said in terror. As a descendant of the king of fear, when you feel fear, it's your most desperate moment. Seeing that Chun Zhao could change the attitude of the demon and his daughter with a few words, Sengo was overjoyed. Mr. Chun, hurry up and destroy this demon. Chun Zhao waved his hand. No rush. Some things can't be solved with violence, right? Descendant of fear? What do you want to talk about? If you want me to leave the girl's body, that's impossible. Are you twins with the girl? Chun Zhao asked. The descendant of fear in the girl's body didn't come from hell. Chun Zhao could tell. After all, he often traveled between the human world and hell. He had seen many demons in hell. Demons in hell always had a strong smell of sulfur. However, the descendant of fear didn't have that, and she wasn't strong. She felt like a newborn demon. But how could there be newborn demons in the human world, especially a descendant of a demon king? So, there was only one possibility. This descendant of fear wasn't an outsider. It was born from the girl's own bloodline. Chun Zhao guessed that she might have awakened her bloodline. The descendant of fear in the girl's bloodline also had its own consciousness. Being a twin was a rather troublesome thing because it meant that the souls of the two were closely linked. Chun Zhao's slap could pull the fear demon out of the body, but it would also pull the girl's soul out. Mr. Chun, what are you saying? Chun Zhao glanced at Sengo. More accurately, this demon is also your daughter. She's your daughter's sister. She's always been in your daughter's body and blood. Do you understand what I'm saying? But how is that possible? I'm just a normal person. My wife is also a normal person. How can we have a demon daughter? There's no doubt that your wife's ancestor has a demon ancestor. It's very thin, but it does exist. Now that the demon bloodline in your daughter has awakened, in principle, this demon is your daughter. Chapter 3280. Chun Zhao looked back at Sung and said, "To put it simply, if you want the original woman to be safe, then the demon can't be destroyed. I can only make it a secondary consciousness. If you want to completely destroy the demon, then your daughter will die too. At least, I can't destroy the demon without hurting your daughter. Of course, you can find other spiritualists, but I can't guarantee that they'll be more professional than me. Mr. Chun, is there no other way? Is there no way at all? My method is simple. It's purely a violent exorcism, so I can't do the delicate things." Chun Zhao glanced at the girl and continued, "If you can find a more professional spiritualist, they might be able to provide a third method, such as sealing the demon's consciousness. If there are no accidents, maybe your daughter can live a peaceful life." "Will there be any accidents?" 50%, Chun Zhao said. "Even if the demon's consciousness is sealed, its power will gradually grow. One day, when the seal fails, your daughter's consciousness will be completely devoured by the demon's consciousness. So if they coexist, won't they be devoured? That's the problem of habit. If you lift weights every day, after 3 to 5 years, even if you can't reach the level of an athlete, you won't be too far off. But if you don't do anything, what will happen if you lift a 100-kilogram barbell in the future? It's the same for your daughter. If they coexist, your daughter will gradually adapt to the demon's consciousness. Moreover, the demon's consciousness is born from her bloodline, so your daughter's consciousness will always be dominant. Also, the demon's consciousness is still your daughter." Chun Zhao looked at Sung. "Of course, the decision is up to you." It was not an easy choice for a father to make. Just as Chun Zhao said, the demon's consciousness was born from his daughter's body, or rather awakened. Therefore, he agreed that it was Seng's daughter. After Chun Zhao explained the situation, it would be a difficult decision to kill any one of them or leave two alive. Seng looked at Chun Zhao. "Mr. Chun, what if I only want to seal the demon's power? I can't do it. The demon's power and consciousness coexist with your daughter's consciousness. There's no such thing as sealing power alone. But I also need to live a normal life. If she remains in this state, whether it's me, my daughter, or the demon consciousness, none of us can live a normal life." Chun Zhao looked at the girl on the bed. "Did you hear that? While your father is making his choice, you should also make your own choice. Do you want to accept your identity and live together with your sisters? Or do you want to wait until the day your father is tortured by you to the point of a mental breakdown and then find a spiritualist to get rid of you? It didn't matter if they came from hell or the human world. Evil or not, demons still had to consider their interests. There was no such thing as a demon having to risk his own life to make this family into a mess. There were such situations, but that was because these demons were not complete demons. They were pure evil. A pure, chaotic, and disorderly demon consciousness naturally only knew destruction and slaughter. A complete demon would have the same or similar complex thoughts as a human. Chun Zhao had interacted with too many demons, so he knew that evil was only relative. There was no absolute evil, nor was there absolute good. The demon consciousness in the girl's body was new. However, It was more like a copy of the girl's original self with the addition of the demon's inheritance. So it had a different self-awareness from a girl. But it was nonsense to say that she was born evil. I want at least 3 days a week to be my personal time, the descendant of fear said. That's impossible. Chen Zhao shook his head. This body is your sister's body, after all. Your only choice is to appear with your sister's permission. It can't be 1, 3, 5, 5, or 2, 3, 4, or 6 hers. Then what's the difference between me and going to jail? You have to understand that you're a derivative of your sister. Your consciousness and power all exist for your sister. Unless one day you're strong enough to appear without a physical body, your only choice is to have a good relationship with your sister. Chen Zhao paused. Or you can teach your sister to use your power. This will give you more opportunities to communicate. At least 2 days a month, just 2 days, the descendant of fear said, almost begging. I agree, Sengo said seriously. Sengo didn't just compromise. More accurately, he felt sympathy for her. When Chen Zhao called the demon consciousness his daughter, he was also moved by this. Once such feelings were born, it was hard to stay calm. Imagine being a daughter who could only hide in a dark corner for the rest of her life. What would it feel like to be a father? That was why he agreed to the descendant of fear's request without discussing it with his eldest daughter. Actually, Chen Zhao could understand it. After all, Chen Zhao was a father too. In the end, Chen Zhao didn't do anything. The mission this time was more like a mediation for a family. His daughter also returned to normal. The descendant of fear kept her promise. Sungu told her daughter everything that had happened. Chen Zhao added on. His daughter also sympathized with the other consciousness in her body. She didn't complain about her father's decision. Sengo sent Chen Zhao out. Mr. Chen, thank you very much for your help. You're welcome. I didn't actually do anything. This mission was rather special to Chen Zhao. He had completed so many missions. This was the only one where he didn't use force. Take good care of your daughter, including her. Relationships need to be built. I know I can't give her a new body, but I want her to be happy too. It's good that you think like that. Just as Chen Zhao was about to leave, 5 spiritualists came in. There were 3 men and 2 women. Are you the one causing trouble? One of them was dressed the same as Hallie's. He looked at Chen Zhao coldly. Chen Zhao frowned. Mr. Sengo, do you know them? Sengo was also confused. Who are you? You don't need to know who we are. You only need to know that the reason you're still alive is because we thought you were unimportant. But now it seems that we were wrong. We should have killed you long ago to prevent you from affecting our plans. Chapter 3281. The gloomy, dispirited man raised his hand. An evil spirit started coiling around it. The next moment, the black spirit flew out of his hand and shot towards Sengo. Sengo froze in fear. He didn't even know how to dodge. However, the black spirit was blocked by another hand. Chen Zhao reached out and grabbed it. Do you know that it's taboo to attack innocent people? Chen Zhao squeezed the black spirit in his hand gently. The gloomy, dispirited man sneered. You dare to touch my black death with your body? You won't end up any better. Really? Chen Zhao looked at his palm. It had indeed turned black. It had been corroded by the black spirit's death aura. Mr. Sengo, you can go back first. Mr. Chun, they don't worry. Leave it to me. You won't be of much help here. Then okay. Sengo carefully retreated into the house and closed the door softly. The moment the door closed, Chen Zhao crushed the Black Death monster. You dare to kill my Black Death, then you'll replace. Before the gloomy, dispirited man could finish, his hands fell to the ground. My hands! My hands? Oh no! The fastest to react was a woman in a purple t-shirt. Her right palm glowed with purple light, but before she could push it out, her right palm broke too. Her right palm was also broken. It wasn't the kind that was cut off, but it was torn off. Her body seemed to be pulled by some force, and she fell to the ground. Ah! The woman in the purple t-shirt screamed in pain. The others felt their scalps go numb. The fat man beside them had just taken a step forward when his body was lifted upside down. His body was lifted upside down, and his left foot was torn off. The remaining man and woman didn't dare to move anymore. They didn't understand what had happened at all. The man hadn't done anything at all. But out of their 3 companions, one had lost 2 arms, 1 palm, and 1 leg. This was practically tearing off all their limbs. They'd never seen something so cruel. In the past, they'd encountered spiritualists. They couldn't even survive 1 round of attacks. However, this ordinary-looking spiritualist in front of him was indescribably terrifying. Kill him! Kill him! Kill him! The gloomy and dispirited man roared in pain. Both of his arms had been chopped off. At this moment, he had no combat power to speak of. Magma appeared under Chun Zhao's feet. Like a snake, it coiled around the gloomy, dispirited man. The gloomy, dispirited man let out a heart-wrenching scream. The scorching lava scorched his skin. In the next moment, the lava poured directly into the cold and dispirited man's mouth. Rumble, rumble. The gloomy and dispirited man died, and he died in great pain. By the time his body fell, his organs had already been roasted. Lava seeped out of his cracked skin. At this moment, Sengo wanted to come out. But before he could open the door, Chun Zhao stopped him. After all, Sengo was just an ordinary person. The scene outside was rather bloody. "Mr. Chun, are you all right?" "I'm fine. It'll be over soon. It's better if you don't come out." Chun Zhao's lava turned into a dark shadow again. First, it completely wiped away the ashes of the gloomy, dispirited man. Then it engulfed the blood and broken limbs at the scene. Finally, it picked up the few people and left. They either no longer had the ability to fight, or they didn't have the courage to resist. Thus, they allowed Chun Zhao to bind them and leave. Chun Zhao brought them to a secluded place. Only then did he release them. "Tell me, who are you? Why did you attack Sengo? Did you also awaken his daughter's demonic bloodline?" No one spoke. It seemed like no one was willing to speak first. Of course, Chun Zhao never cared about their stubbornness. The dark shadow turned into countless blades, dragging the woman in the purple shirt into it. The woman was sliced into pieces by the countless spinning blades. Blood splattered everywhere. Flesh and blood flew everywhere. This went on for a minute. Then the woman went completely silent. When the dark magma retreated, the woman's corpse was no longer human. This group of people had never seen such a cruel scene. In the past, when they faced spiritualists, even if they were individually strong, most of them would be merciful. They had never met an enemy who would kill them so cruelly. The man before them was different from all the spiritualists they'd met and interacted with in the past. Powerful, cold, merciless, and merciless. I only need one person who can answer my question. I'll kill everyone else. Don't expect me to be merciful, and don't think that you'll get lucky. You can't beat me, and you can't escape from me. In Chun Zhao's eyes, these young people really weren't strong enough. They weren't that strong themselves, but they thought that they were. Chun Zhao didn't know who gave him the courage to have such a misunderstanding. Perhaps they hadn't met any decent opponents in the past, but Chun Zhao would never tolerate them. I will not accommodate them either. I'll tell you, the remaining white-clothed girl cried out bitterly. I'll tell you everything you want to know. The other's expressions changed drastically. The girl in the white shirt no longer dared to look at her friends. Just then, a breeze blew past. The girl's cries stopped abruptly. When she turned around, she saw her 3 remaining friends frozen in the distance. 3 black tentacles extended from each of their backs. Dark shadows penetrated their skin from behind and continuously seeped into their bodies. In the end, black liquid seeped out of their eyes, ears, nose, and mouth. Finally, they collapsed onto the ground powerlessly. The girl in the white shirt trembled in fear. Compared to the man before her, their bravery and ruthlessness towards others in the past wasn't even worth mentioning. "Stop crying and organize your words," Chun Zhao said calmly. "Don't let me feel that there's anything wrong with what you're saying. Otherwise, I'll cut you up piece by piece. You'll die more miserably than any of them. Your voice will be broken from crying." The girl in the white shirt tried her best to control her tears. She could feel that the man before her wasn't joking with her. His cruelty and coldness had already been proven in advance. It's our boss, Anthony Yerk. He ordered us to do everything. Purpose. Summon the Lord of Hell, the Demon King. Demon King? Lord of Hell? At first glance, it sounded quite scary. But Chun Zhao had unparalleled experience in summoning demons. The Lord of Hell was a handsome guy, Satan. The Demon King referred to Satan and the other 6 kings of deadly sins. The 7 of them couldn't appear in the human world at all, not even as clones. Unless it was like Samuel, a consciousness without any power to speak of. The other demons had more or less grown in power around Chun Zhao. But Samuel was a kitten when he first appeared. He was still a kitten now. He could occasionally borrow the power of Chun Zhao's dark shadow, but he would pant for half a day after moving a few times. So, Chun Zhao didn't believe that anyone could summon the Demon King. Chapter 3282. However, summoning demons was quite professional. Knowing 3 to 5 demon summoning spells and summoning dozens or hundreds of times wasn't considered a professional. Chun Zhao was a true professional. He had summoned demons of all levels. How many sacrifices did he need for each type of demon, and what conditions did he need to summon them? Chun Zhao could basically count them all. He hadn't been in the spiritual world for long. Speaking of common sense, Chun Zhao's attempts in the spiritual world were basically counting backwards. But when it came to summoning demons, if Chun Zhao said he was second, no one would dare to say they were first. Earth was the main plane, but it was only so big. A demon lord's territory was so big. For example, Beelzebub Zophi's territory had devoured 6 or 7 demon lords of the same level. His original territory was almost as big as a world. So, the price to summon a demon of this level was already astronomical. Sacrificing tens of millions of people for a few minutes was pointless. So, in theory, it was already impossible to summon a demon of the level of a demon lord. It was impossible in the past, and it was even more impossible now. Even with Chun Zhao's relationship with Beelzebub Zophi, he probably didn't want his sacrifices. Chun Zhao still had to prepare an astronomical number of materials for the summoning ceremony. Summoning demons wasn't a one-sided contract. Activating the summoning process required very strict conditions. Magic, sacrifices, and contracts. None of them could be missing. So, he had to summon a demon above the level of a demon lord. It wouldn't be as simple as a sacrifice. If a demon lord appeared in the modern world, due to the world barrier and the suppression of the power of the world, its power would be suppressed by at least half. If it was a secondary demon king, it wouldn't even have 1% of its power. Earth wasn't a small world. It was a world with complete rules. If the power of the world here completely suppressed Chun Zhao, he might self-destruct at any moment. But Chun Zhao was a native creature. He was part of the world's consciousness. So, Chun Zhao wouldn't be suppressed by the power of the world. But if he went to other worlds, he would be suppressed by the power of the world. Of course, apart from hell, Chun Zhao hadn't been to any other worlds with complete rules. All he went to were small worlds with incomplete rules. The power of the small worlds would suppress Chun Zhao, but he didn't feel uncomfortable at all. This was because Chun Zhao had a small world. His inner world was a small world. Therefore, to Chun Zhao, the world power of the small world posed no threat, or rather, the threat was relatively small. In a world with complete rules, the more powerful an outsider was, the stronger the suppression would be. Even if the great demon king was several times stronger, he would not be spared. Samuel was a typical example. Even he couldn't resist the world force under the complete laws. Therefore, when he appeared in the modern world, not to mention power, it didn't even have a complete form. It could only exist in the form of a kitten. That was why Chun Zhao told the girl that he wanted to summon the Lord of Hell. It wasn't that he didn't believe it, but he found it laughable. "Where can I find your boss, Anthony Milk? I can't find him. He always contacts me when he has a mission." The white-shirt girl looked at Chun Zhao in fear. "Then do you know the specific steps of this summoning ritual?" "I know, but I'm not sure if I can complete it." Shais replied. "Tell me." "First, you have to gather the descendants of the King of Terror, King of Power, King of Death, King of Depravity, King of Destruction, King of Darkness, King of Blood, King of Nightmares, King of Winter, King of Fire, King of Withering, and King of Nirvana. Then, Use their blood to activate the ancient magic array and summon the Lord of Hell. What's the ancient magic array? It was discovered by our boss, Anthony Irk. It's a magic circle in a relic. Where? I don't know. How often does Anthony Milk contact you? Usually 2 to 3 days. Chen Zhao carried the white shirt girl back to Los Angeles. The girl didn't know who Chen Zhao was. However, Chen Zhao had carried her all the way back to Los Angeles. The whole process took less than 3 minutes. This ability was enough to make her tremble in fear. She felt that Chen Zhao was much scarier than her boss, Anthony Milk. The girl was called Tim Isabella. She wasn't an experienced spiritualist. It had only been half a year since she entered and came into contact with the spiritual world. Then he was noticed by Anthony Irk. Speaking of which, her ability was quite powerful. She could create large amounts of water out of thin air. Furthermore, it could control the water within a certain area. If it was in a place with a lot of water, such as a river, lake, or sea, it would be very difficult. Her combat power would soar. Especially at sea level, she could even create a small tsunami. Of course, now that it was in Chen Zhao's hands, there was no need to think about it anymore. She didn't have the courage to challenge him. After all, those companions were not any weaker than her. None of them could last more than 2 rounds. After Chen Zhao threw Tim Isabella into the dungeon, Chen Zhaoxi dialed the little handsome guy's number. Little handsome, is the mount you promised me not ready yet? No, I'm working on it. Have you heard of a summoning spell that uses the blood of 13 descendants of lesser demon kings to summon the 7 deadly sins? How is that possible? Even the blood of 130 or 1,300 descendants of lesser demon kings can't summon 1/10,000th of any of the 7 deadly sins, let alone 13. Even the blood of lesser demon kings can't do it. Plus, there are only 99 of them. Then, according to your estimation, if this magic formation is completed and the blood of the descendants of lesser demon kings is gathered, what level of demon can be summoned? Can it be a lesser demon king? No, it's too far away. It's possible if it's 1% of a lesser demon king's power, but it can only exist for a short time. It might not even last a breath. The consciousness and power of the summoned lesser demon king will be instantly destroyed by the power of the world. The remaining demon king's power will also cause great damage. Chen Zhao couldn't help but feel nervous. How much damage will it cause? With your current strength, it won't be a threat to you. It should cause a few years of climate change. Then, the power of the world in the main plane will gradually repair the disrupted climate. It won't cause the end of humanity, right? Nope. That's good. But if someone wants to activate this summoning spell, it's most likely to be a great lord or a lord demon. Chapter 3283. Chen Zhao finished communicating with the handsome guy. Chen Zhao also relaxed a little. At least he confirmed that it wasn't a ritual to summon a demon king. It made sense. It was impossible to summon a demon king anyway, although it wasn't a groundless worry. After confirming it, Chen Zhao heaved a long sigh of relief. Even if the enemy wanted to summon a great lord, it would be troublesome. If it was a great lord, Chen Zhao was 100% confident. But in a battle of this level, Chen Zhao couldn't guarantee what kind of effect it would have. Unless Chen Zhao could kill it in one blow. Otherwise, it would definitely cause great damage. On the 3rd day, Tim Isabella told Chen Zhao. Anthony Falk had contacted her. Anthony Falk asked Tim Isabella to collect the blood of the descendant of terror as soon as possible. Chen Zhao wanted Tim Isabella to agree to his request first and tell him that she'd already collected it. Then, they agreed on the delivery location. Tim Isabella arrived at the delivery location. She was at the edge of a cornfield on a farm. After waiting for about half an hour, a car stopped in front of Tim Isabella. A man got out of the car. He wore sunglasses that covered most of his face. The man glanced at Tim Isabella. "Why are you alone?" "They're busy." Tim Isabella was actually very nervous. Nevertheless, she still forced herself to calm down and replied, "How come there's no signal when I tried to contact them earlier?" "There's no signal at the place they went to," Tim Isabella replied calmly. "I don't know what they're doing either. After getting the blood, they told me and left. I don't know where exactly they went. These were all lines that she had rehearsed before. When she'd been locked up, she'd practiced these lines countless times. So, she could speak quite fluently now. Where's the thing I want? Isabella took out a test tube. It was filled with red liquid. There was also a strong aura. Even through the test tube, one could still feel the strong demonic aura. Such a strong aura. Are you sure it's from the girl who just awakened? The man asked. Yes. Isabella nodded. She didn't know if this was devil's blood, and she wasn't even sure if it was blood. Chun Zhao had prepared this for her. After hearing the words of the sunglasses man, he secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Strange. Could it be that the girl's bloodline is very similar? The man in sunglasses held the test tube and looked at it again and again. He was sure that this was indeed devil's blood. Only evil demon blood could emit such a strong, evil demon aura. But he was afraid of making a mistake. After all, he was the one who activated the demonic bloodline in the girl. At that time, he did not notice that the girl had such a pure demonic bloodline. If he had known earlier, he would have made better use of it. Okay, you can go now, said the sunglasses man. What about the benefits you promised me? Isabella asked. The sunglasses man smiled and took out a check. This is yours. You guys did well this time. The man in sunglasses said, I'll need your help next time. When they come back, tell them not to go to places without signal next time. Got it. Isabella nodded. Oh, you're Anthony Irk, right? The man in shade smiled and did not answer Isabella's question directly. I'm in a hurry. Bye. After returning to the car, the man said to the driver beside him, Let's go. Did you get it? The driver asked. Yes, but something's not right. Let's go first. Hurry. After the car left, Isabella was somewhat hesitant. She was unsure if she should stay where she was. She did not dare to run. After all, Chun Zhao's terror was still fresh in her memory. She wasn't sure if she would be punished if she left without telling Chun Zhao. At the moment, Chun Zhao was chasing the car. The car had been driving for an hour. Are you sure there's something wrong with that woman? The driver asked. I'm not sure, but I can't contact her companions. Didn't she say that they went to a place without signal? I've checked the whereabouts of those people, and there are no records of them leaving the city. 3 days ago, her companions disappeared. Their families and friends don't have accurate information about them, and their daily necessities are still there. You've been investigating this for the past few days. What we're doing is too risky. We have to be careful with every operation. What do we do now? Keep driving in the city. Don't stop. 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. The car kept driving in the city without any rules. Should we keep driving? Yes. The man in sunglasses nodded. I don't see anyone following us. Stop at the service station in front. I'll go buy some food. The man got out of the car and bought some food. Then he returned to the car. Okay, we can go back now. But we haven't given the client our stuff yet. Already? In this service station? Yes. The man in sunglasses nodded. The driver was about to start driving when a man suddenly appeared in front of them. The driver rolled down the window and was about to yell. The man walked to the back door of the car and sat in. You. Chun Zhao leaned against the window and supported his face with one hand. Drive. Who are you? Chun Zhao tilted his head and looked at the two people in front. Tell me, who did you give his stuff to? The driver and the man in sunglasses glanced at each other. They moved in unison and opened their car doors, wanting to rush out. Click! Before they could open the door, it locked automatically. Then the accelerator was pressed down and the car started. It sped out of the service station. Both of their expressions changed. Who exactly are you? I'm the one asking you questions, not the other way around. You should be clear about the current situation. Don't you know who we are? We're from the Wayne brothers and sisters. You won't have a good ending if you attack us. The car sped up faster and faster. It even exceeded the car's original horsepower. The car sped down the street. Both of them lost control of the car. Even the police car that was chasing them was left far behind. The car sped out of the city. The two were already pressed into the seats, unable to move. Do you know where the end of this road is? Chen Zhao asked. No, I don't. Take coast, but there's a cliff at the end. At this speed, there's still about 18 minutes. This means that you have 18 minutes to think about my question. Chapter 3284. The man in shades and the driver tried all sorts of methods. Escape from the car, or control Chun Zhao. But they all failed. They still couldn't control the car. By then, the car had already entered the coastal highway. They could already see the end of the highway on the cliff. The two grew even more anxious. Stop the car. You'll die too. Stop the car. Ha! Sorry, you'll be the ones dying, Chun Zhao said casually. The car suddenly sped up again. By then, the car had already turned toward the cliff. 50 meters, 40 meters, 30 meters. It was getting closer and closer. Stop! The man in shades yelled hysterically. I'll tell you. Whoosh! The car charged off the cliff. The man in shades and the driver both let out heart-wrenching cries. But the car didn't fall. Instead, it floated a dozen meters above the cliff. What's going on? The two broke out in cold sweat and couldn't help but swallow. You don't need to be agitated like this, Chun Zhao said, smiling. Who the fuck are you? For now on, please be careful when you speak. I'll extract some organs from your bodies according to the situation, Chun Zhao said. Now, Chun Zhao said, can you tell me which one of you is Anthony Irk or where he is now? We're not Anthony Irk. We don't know him either. As soon as the man in shades finished speaking, his left ear fell off. My ear. My ear, what did you do? The man in shades screamed in pain. I don't like lies. I'm telling the truth, the man in shades said in pain. We're dangerous carriers. Anthony Irk is only our client. We've never seen him before. How do I know if you're telling the truth? You can log onto our secret website with your phone and search for information about us. Chun Zhao took out his phone and typed in their website. As expected, information about them popped up. The two of them were people who specialized in transporting special items for various industries, especially the spiritual world. This was especially true for the spirit world. Most of the items they transported were items commissioned by the spirit world. They could be treasures that people fought over or items that could cause great harm. For example, the demon blood this time. They didn't care what the demon blood was used for. But Chun Zhao still didn't believe them. I heard your conversation with Elizabeth. Your relationship is not as simple as transporting goods. It's just a website. I can prepare 100 in a minute. This kind of preparation is meaningless. I activated that girl's demon bloodline. To be precise, she only activated it after I gave it to her. This is also a request. It's from Anthony Milk. He asked us to deliver it to the girl. Well, what about your relationship with Elizabeth? Did you entrust Elizabeth or that Anthony Milk? It's Anthony Milk, but your conversation makes me feel like you hired them. All right, we already knew who they were before this. They had just awakened less than half a year ago, but they were all very powerful and high profile. So we just pretended to be Anthony Irk and talked to her. Chun Zhao rubbed his chin and picked up the phone. Aluntarai, Minette, what do you think? President, there are a lot of loopholes in his answers. First of all, he said he was trying to disguise Anthony Falco's tone. To disguise Anthony Falco's tone, the person must be someone familiar with him. However, Miss Elizabeth didn't notice his conversation with her, which means he's not only good at disguising himself, but he's also very familiar with Miss Elizabeth. From these 2 points, we can tell he's not just a delivery man, Aluntarai said. President, let me add something, Minette said. I logged in according to the website he gave me. The website looks similar, but there are many loopholes. I checked the back-end records, and only today has an IP. There's also no record of a request. This means that his preparation isn't perfect. This is their mistake. Another thing is that their delivery method seems very strict, but there are actually many loopholes. They only stopped once at the service station and even bought something. So, if we break the process into several steps, we can understand their delivery method. First, they get off the car, enter the store, choose the item, and pay. I discussed it with Aluntarai. The most likely step is the payment step. You mean there's a problem with the cashier? No, there's nothing wrong with the cashier. They give the cashier the banknotes with the information of the goods. At this time, the customers following behind get the banknotes from the cashier by giving them change. This is a more popular underground transaction method now. They use an unrelated person as a middleman. and then complete the transaction without the middleman knowing. Chun Zhao understood. He raised his head and looked at the man in shades and the driver. Now, do you have anything else to add? Both of their expressions became extremely ugly. I've heard of dangerous goods transportation, Minette added. But it's not like this. First of all, they won't take the goods from a certain place. Instead, they'll pick up the goods from a certain place. The delivery method is also more strict. So, President, I think you can obtain information through violence now. It'll be more effective. Okay, sorry for interrupting your vacation. Continue to have fun. Chen Zhao looked at the two. You still have some time. The man in shades and the driver felt a force pressing down on them from all directions. Their bodies started shrinking. Chen Zhao looked at them calmly. You'll soon be squashed into meatballs by my power. Before you die, you still have a chance to speak. Just like Miss Elizabeth, I only need someone to speak. The man in shades and the driver glanced at each other. They could already feel extreme pain. Their bones were wailing. Their bodies pressed against each other under the unfamiliar force. They started panting heavily, but it couldn't reduce their pain. Soon, they found it hard to breathe. Blood started seeping out from their mouths, noses, and ears. Their eyes bulged out from their bloodshot eyes. I'll talk, the driver said with difficulty. Chen Zhao looked at the time. 49 seconds. I thought you could last at least a minute. Chapter 3285. The man's body became smaller and smaller. He was growing into a sphere. He could no longer speak. Just then, the man's body started changing. His skin turned black and a horn grew out of his head. But this couldn't delay his death. The pressure didn't stop. Seeing this, the driver's mood also fell to the bottom of the valley. Even after his partner used his trump card, he couldn't turn the situation around. You don't have much time, Chen Zhao asked. Do you still want to delay? The driver thought for a while and said, A year ago, a group of people found me and said that I'm the same type of person as them. They wanted me to join them. At first, I refused, but then they proved that we're the same type of person. The same type of person? Chen Zhao studied the driver carefully. You have demon blood too? Yes. The driver nodded. Then I joined the organization. Anthony Rourke joined after me. Anthony Milk, that's him, the driver said. I thought he was the culprit behind everything. Chen Zhao was dazed. The big boss he'd thought of was just a small fry now. His power was average, and so was his skill. But thinking about it, it made sense. Ordinary people would not be able to execute such a big plan. He's not, the driver said. We're just the lowest in the church. What church? Three Gods Church. We worship the King of Darkness, Angelo Mahalaka, the King of Sin, Kirkener Geetham, and the Supreme King of all things, Lartai Worcester. Chen Zhao was still shocked when he heard about the King of Blackness. But thinking about it, the demon kings of hell didn't matter if they were the king of the 7 deadly sins or the secondary demon kings. Their names were their surnames. They would only give others surnames. They couldn't have both names and surnames. For example, Beelzebub Zophi. Beelzebub was the demon king camp that he belonged to. It was his subordinate surname. Zophi was his family's surname and name. If he was lucky enough to become a secondary demon king in the future, he'd give up the surname Beelzebub. Then, he'd call him Demon King Zophi. Therefore, Chen Zhao was very sure that none of the 3 demon kings that the 3 God sect worshipped were real demon kings. Of course, if the masterminds behind all this were the 3 so-called demon kings, their ultimate goal was to descend into the modern world. He had no choice but to tell his followers his name. After all, to complete the summoning, one's real name was a must. The only people they could deceive were those who were not in the industry. Anyone with the slightest bit of knowledge would know that these names could not possibly be the names of the Demon King. From the first day we joined, we were given the mission of freeing the 3 gods from their imprisonment and leading them into the real world. The driver said, We belong to the King of Darkness, Angeli Mahalaka. Our main responsibility is to complete our own work. I don't know about the progress of the other 2 branches. Your 3 God sect has different factions. Of course, we only believe in our own God. Chen Zhao nodded. Looks like your faith isn't that strong. The driver shrugged. I have my own will. I know what I'm doing. In other words, you actually know what kind of group you've joined. Do you know what kind of life I lived in the past? My house was stolen by the bank. My family left me, and I could only spend the night in a paper box in minus 12 degrees Celsius. I want to change the world. I want to get back what I've lost. With demons, the high priest said that when our king descends, we'll be promoted. We'll become kings, the rulers of a region. We'll have everything. What we lost in the past, what we didn't have, we'll get back 100 or 1,000 times in the future. Chen Zhao rested a hand on one side of his face and tilted his body slightly. Yes, continue. Of course, the prerequisite is that I have to live. I know that it sounds sad to rely on a god or a demon to realize one's dream, but it's my only choice, right? Perhaps. Chen Zhao was very sure that their wish would most likely fail. After all, the god they believed in wasn't even a secondary demon king. If a secondary demon king really descended, and it wouldn't be suppressed by the power of the world. After descending, if these servants could really receive rewards, they might really realize their so-called dreams. There were too many prerequisites. But the savior they hoped for wasn't a secondary demon king. Even if he really descended, there wouldn't be absolute, dominating power. But there were humans like Chen Zhao in this world. So even if they descended, they wouldn't be able to overturn the order of human society, unless they didn't cause too much of a commotion when descending. If they hid after descending and planned in secret for a few hundred years, they might really be able to shake the order of human society. But then, it would definitely have nothing to do with believers. The leader of our sect is the high priest. He's the leader of everything. All the missions and progress related to summoning our god are issued by him. How do we find him? Or where is your base? We don't have a base. Every gathering is informed by the higher-ups. If we want to find the high priest, we have to find someone to receive us. What about the person? Earlier, when Anthony Irk went to the service station, he sent something out. I'm very sure that he didn't send the demonic blood out. I've been watching his every move. The thing and the information are separated. When we passed a certain road in the city, there was a manhole cover that was open. After our car passed by, the demonic blood would be thrown into the manhole. Anthony Irk went to the service station to send this information out. The method is just as your subordinate guessed. Chen Zhao nodded. In other words, my tracking has failed, and you can't provide me with any more useful information, right? The driver felt a chill. He could already feel Chen Zhao's murderous intent toward him. Wait, I can't provide you with information about our sect, but I know some information about the other sections. Didn't you say you don't know anything about the other sects? Or are you planning to lie to me on the spot? I don't know, but some news reports always report supernatural events. We can easily tell that the supernatural events reported in the news are very similar to the actions of our faction. Chapter 3286. Santa Fe City, capital of New Mexico. Chen Zhao and the driver from the Three Gods sect, Blinken, had been here for 2 days. Blinken pushed open the door. Mr. Chen, I found it. Let's go. I hope the information you've gathered is useful. Chen Zhao and Blinken drove to their destination, an ordinary apartment. Knock, knock. Chen Zhao knocked on the door. Just then, the door opened, but only a crack. Inside was a young woman who looked less than 30 years old. She was quite pretty, but her face was a little haggard. Who are you looking for? Is this the home of Daiong and his wife? Yes, I'm Creel D'Ambreletta. My husband is at work. If you want to see him, you'll have to wait for another 2 hours. The woman scrutinized Chen Zhao and Blinken. Hello, Ms. Creel. Chen Zhao looked at Creel. We're here for your daughter. You are the police? Creel's face immediately turned cold. She didn't seem to like cops. No, we're not the police. We've said everything we need to say. What else do you want? My daughter has been dead for more than half a year, and you guys don't have any clues at all. Every time, you guys ask the same question. I've had enough. I've had enough of you guys. Collier lost control of his emotions. Chen Zhao calmly watched as Creel cursed and lost his composure. Creel slammed the door angrily. Chen Zhao and Blinken were still standing at the door. About a few minutes later, the door opened again. Collier pulled the door open. Come in. You'd better give me some useful information. Chun Zhao and Blinken finally enter the house. Clear poured a glass of water for them. Tell me, what do you want to ask? Ms. Cryer, as I said before, we are not the police. Well, which department are you from? We're in charge of the supernatural. Sir, are you sure you're here to investigate my daughter's death? You're not joking? Chun Zhao glanced at Brinken. Brinken stretched out his hands, and a dark red energy ball started brewing between his palms. Are you satisfied with this answer? Ms. Cryer. Creel covered his mouth in disbelief. After a long while, Creel finally calmed down a little. Is my daughter's death a supernatural event? Her death should be murder, but it's related to the supernatural world, Chun Zhao said. She's just a 6-year-old child. How could she have anything to do with people like you? She didn't offend the people from the spiritual world, Chun Zhao said helplessly. The people from the spiritual world have their eyes on her. Could it be that the world of people like you is filled with such perverts? No wonder Creel was so mean to Chun Zhao. After all, her daughter had died a violent death. He couldn't ask her to have a good impression of the spiritual world anymore. Miss Creel, I'm sorry. Although there aren't many of them, they do exist in the shadows. Tell me, what exactly happened? Who killed my daughter? Why did they treat my daughter in such a cruel way? She was only a child. She was only 6 years old. The more Creel spoke, the more agitated he became. In the end, he broke down and burst into tears. After she calmed down, Chun Zhao said, I also want to know who killed your daughter. In other words, you don't know who did it either, right? We hope to get some information from you and your husband, or to see if your daughter's belongings are still there. You need Rachel and me to cooperate? Yes, we do. If you find that person, can we kill him ourselves? Miss Creel, do you know that killing is never easy? I don't care. I just want to take revenge in my own way. I want to kill him. I dream of killing him. Fury and hatred were burning in Creel's eyes. Creel looked at Chun Zhao and Brinken. You're not cops, are you? Your goal isn't to seek justice for my daughter. You just want to find the murderer. No, we're seeking justice, Chun Zhao said indifferently. Trust me, Chun Zhao said calmly. They'll regret what they've done after falling into my hands. Ms. Creel, killing is actually a scary thing. Creel started crying again. After crying, her attitude was still determined. I don't want to listen to those big theories. I just want a chance. Do you know that I dream of my daughter every day? She's crying to me. She tells me that her entire body hurts. Can you understand this feeling? Just then, the door was pushed open. Ryan Dion was back. He saw 2 strangers in the house. Creel, who are they? Are they the police again? Riley Dion was a firefighter. He was tall and looked very strong. We're here to investigate your daughter's death, Chun Zhao answered. Creel told him about Chun Zhao and Brinken's identities. Brinken demonstrated his ability again. Riley Dion sat on the sofa in silence. Rayleigh didn't say anything after that. Creel was still expressing his strong demands. Personally punish the murderer. Just then, Rachel stood up. I'll take you to my daughter's room. I'm not sure what's useful, but maybe you can find some clues. Creel, can you get me something to eat? I'm very hungry. Chun Zhao and Blake followed Rachel to their daughter's room. Sir, I hope that you can inform me as soon as you find the murderer, or I can go with you. Mr. Rachel, compared to your wife, I think you should be calmer. You should know that this won't do you any good, but I just can't control myself. I want to kill him. I just want to kill him. The impulsiveness and murderous aura that Rayleigh Dion displayed was even stronger than that of his wife, Cryle. That's not a person, Chun Zhao said. You'll sink into madness. Just then, Chun Zhao realized that there was an unknown flower in a bottle on the desk. The flower was about to wither. However, it was emitting a faint magic power. Chun Zhao picked it up. Do you recognize this? Rachel glanced at the flower and nodded silently. Light red flower. It's used to stimulate the bloodline, but it's extremely poisonous, Brinken answered. Chun Zhao looked at Rhett. Do you know who gave this flower to your daughter? Chapter 3287. What's wrong with the flower? If we can find out who sent this flower, then our target can probably be narrowed down a lot. Before Rayleigh could answer, Creel, who was standing at the door, spoke up. It's my daughter's teacher, Creel said. I remember that I want to pick her up that day. She got in the car happily with this flower in her hand. She likes it a lot and said that the teacher gave it to her. As Creel spoke, his body began to tremble. Is the person who sent this flower the murderer who killed my daughter? I can't be sure, but it's very suspicious. In a mansion, Marshall Griner had just returned home from work. After busying himself for a while, he prepared dinner. He liked his solitary life where no one would disturb him. However, just as he was about to enjoy dinner, the lights in the room suddenly went out. Marshall Griner cursed under his breath. He stood up to check the electric switch. However, the moment he stood up, a hand suddenly landed on his shoulder and pushed him back to his seat. Marshall Griner's heart tightened. You're Marshall Griner, right? Sir, if there's anything valuable in the house, you can take it. Please don't hurt me, Marshall Griner said hurriedly. At this time, there was a flower on his plate. A wilted flower. Marshall Griner's pupils constricted. Very good. Looks like you know this flower. Sir, I don't know what you're talking about. Marshall Griner's voice sounded forced. It's fine. I'm not here for evidence anyway. Sir, can we talk? How much do you want? Chun Zhao took out his phone. Mr. Rayleigh, you can come in now. Marshall Griner's expression changed once again. Then he heard the sound of the door being kicked open violently. Then there were footsteps and the sound of a metal pipe being dragged. Ryan Dion was dragging a metal baseball bat in his hand. Mr. Chun, are you sure it's him? Yes. Even if it's not him, he's related to your daughter's death. Chun Zhao nodded. Mr. Rayleigh, please calm down. Don't listen to his nonsense. Chun Zhao lifted one of Marshall Griner's arms. With a low growl, Rayleigh smashed the baseball bat down. Marshall Grinnell howled in pain. It had to be said that the villa he chose was quite secluded. There was no one living within a radius of several kilometers. This would give him a comfortable life experience. Of course, this also caused some unfavorable aspects. For example, right now, he needed someone to hear his screams. Tell me why? Isn't my little Mary cute enough? Rayleigh Dion's face was ferocious, and his veins were bulging. He raised the metal baseball bat again. Tell me why? Why? Crack. Marshall Grinnell's thigh was broken. She is an angel. Why would anyone hurt her? Why? Tell me why. Riley Dion used to live on the streets. Therefore, he knew how to make people suffer more. Suddenly, a wave of energy rippled out from Marshall Grindell's body. Chun Zhao and Rhett both took 2 steps back. Marshall Grimmer propped himself up in pain. His entire body was trembling slightly. Okay, I'll tell you why. Marshall Grimmer's pained expression suddenly turned ferocious. His facial muscles stiffened as if he'd injected too much Botox. His pupils also showed an inhuman state. His fingernails sharpened, and his limbs that had been broken were twisting in an inconceivable way before their joints were reconnected. Mr. Chun, Chun Zhao walked up calmly. He grabbed the back of Marshall Grindell's neck and pressed him to the ground. He's just struggling, Chun Zhao said indifferently. It's a useless struggle. Marshall Grindell tried to climb up and fight back, but he couldn't. Chun Zhao was too strong. Let's continue. Seeing Marshall Grindell's transformation, Rhett Dion was even more certain that Marshall was the murderer. He was even more certain that he was the murderer who killed his daughter. There was no longer any hesitation in his actions. Why? Bang! Bang! It had to be said that after demonizing, Marshall Grindell was even more resistant to beatings. However, this didn't mean that he couldn't feel pain. Rhett Dion was still very strong. He even used a metal baseball bat. Even a demon's body could be injured. Who else apart from you? Tell me, who else? Marshall Grindell endured the pain. Do you want to know? You know that you're on the verge of death. You don't know who you're facing. I only know that I'll kill you demons with my own hands. Then why should I tell you? If you tell me now, you can die more easily, Chun Zhao said indifferently. I'll tell you. Let me go. Chun Zhao's finger slid across Marshall Grindell's skin and tore off a strip of flesh. I'll tear your body apart piece by piece. Trust me, I'm good at it. Then came the cruel torture. The entire process didn't last long. Marshall didn't hide anything. At least, Chun Zhao got the information he wanted. Marshall Grindell's superior. Rhett Dion looked at the dying Marshall Grindell on the ground. How should we deal with this guy? Hell is prepared for people like him, Chun Zhao said. With that, Chun Zhao suddenly increased his strength. Marshal Griner tried to struggle for a while, but he soon stopped moving. Mr. Rhett, are you satisfied with this result? Are you going to that nest next? Mr. Rhett, it's a supernatural battle next. I'll go with you. Rhett Dion took out his gun. Look, I've even prepared this guy. Chun Zhao shook his head with a smile. Those guys don't eat this. Do you have anything that can kill these demons? A baby holding a gun might hurt the baby, but it might also hurt itself. I'm not a baby. I've killed people before. Once, I met an arsonist in a fire. I doused him with gasoline and kicked him into the fire. I told you, it's too dangerous. Or maybe I should find the way myself. Chun Zhao rubbed his forehead. It would be more dangerous if he did. It would be fine if he didn't find it, but if he did, or if he was discovered, it would only put the couple in more danger. Fine. No matter what happens later, don't leave my sight. If you agree, I'll take you there. Chapter 3288. Rayleigh's courageous performance won Chun Zhao's praise. However, he was still a bit scared. As Chun Zhao drove, he glanced at Riley Dion in the passenger seat. Don't be too nervous. Just stay by my side. Under normal circumstances, there won't be any danger. Okay, I know. What's under normal circumstances? What's not under normal circumstances? As long as the world isn't destroyed, it's under normal circumstances, Chun Zhao said, chuckling. Huh. Hearing Chun Zhao's joke, Rayleigh also laughed. At the same time, he felt much more relaxed. After half an hour, Chun Zhao stopped the car. They were at an abandoned dock. There were stacked containers everywhere. However, no one had maintained them. After being exposed to the wind and rain, the containers were all rusted. It's here, right? According to what that guy said, it should be here. After all, Rayleigh was a local. He knew the local names and locations better. After the two got out of the car, Chun Zhao glanced at Rayleigh. Where's your metal baseball bat? Didn't you say that thing can't kill demons? It's useful for revenge. It hurts when you fight with your bare hands. Some things have very thick skin, too. Rayleigh thought for a moment. Then he returned to the car and picked up the bat. The abandoned dock wasn't empty. In the empty space inside, a few cranes were working. There were also many people in black robes around. The cranes lifted the containers one by one, and then dumped out a large amount of flesh, blood, and bones. Of course, the bones weren't human. They were all cows and sheep. However, the scene was really disgusting. The flesh and blood filled up a huge magic array. What are they doing? Rayleigh and Chun Zhao were lying on top of a container. They could see most of the abandoned dock. Summoning demons. After being filled up by the flesh and blood, the huge magic array started working. Black smoke seeped out of the magic array, forming an empty door of flesh and blood. Then a large number of low-level demons came out of the door. As soon as they came out, they pounced on the corpses of the cows and sheep and started gnawing on them. Rayleigh covered his mouth, a trace of worry on his face. He glanced at Chun Zhao beside him. Mr. Chun, are you sure you can handle it? Those things are very low level. Even you can deal with 2 or 3 of them. Then how many can you handle? It doesn't matter how many. Chun Zhao shrugged. There's no point in having more of those things. Then when do we start? No rush, Chun Zhao said. I haven't seen the person in charge yet. We're not here to deal with these small fries. But that scene looks a little scary. After all, it was Rayleigh's first time experiencing a supernatural event. So it was understandable that they were uneasy. Needless to say, these people's actions were quite extravagant. After summoning a large number of low-level demons, it started to gather a large number of evil spirits. Through the magic array, he released an aura that attracted evil spirits. Then, countless evil spirits began to surge in from all directions. They then combined the evil spirits into even more terrifying evil spirits. Just then, a few cars drove in from outside. A few evil cultists in red robes got out of the car. The evil cultists in the area all bowed to these red-robed evil cultists. The red-robed evil cultists began to give orders. The low-level evil cultists began to dig up the concrete floor. There was actually a magic array under the abandoned pier. No wonder the pier was abandoned. Huh, do you know why? Chen Zhao looked at Rayleigh. This pier used to be the city's largest trading center. This dock was originally the city's largest trading hub. Every day, a large number of imports and exports came and went from here. But no one knows when it started. Murders kept happening here. Every day, there would be a murder, and no one had ever caught the murderer. It lasted for 13 days, and 13 people died. The police couldn't find any clues or motive, so the dock was completely abandoned. All the workers at the dock were unwilling to continue working. Later, it was reopened, but another person died on that day. Since then, it has never been reopened. Ever since then, it hasn't been reopened. Just then, the red-robed, evil cultists in the center each took out a bottle of blood and poured it onto the magic array on the ground. Then, they joined hands and chanted in unison. Rayleigh had a premonition. He turned to look at Chun Zhao. What are you waiting for? The real boss hasn't come out yet. If we break the ritual now, there might be a bunch of people with brain problems who will continue to summon the big guy in the future. It's better to wait for them to summon the big boss and then deal with them together. But aren't they summoning a demon king? Don't worry. I've asked professionals. They're not summoning a demon king. What professionals? A real demon king. Just then, blood rose from the ground. The ground cracked, and a huge hand pierced out the magic array. Then the head, and then the body. The huge demon was climbing out of the summoning ritual with difficulty. Great King of Sin, Kirkener Gizitan, respond to your servant's call. We will welcome you with unparalleled glory. The huge demon's upper body had already passed through the magic array. His skin was bright red. He had 2 wings on his back and 10 eyes on his face. There was also a ring of fire formed by hellfire above his head. He, or rather she was a female demon with obvious gender characteristics. Kirkener Gizitan have finally come to the modern world. Kirkener Gizitan was still trying his best to climb out of the magic array. My loyal servants, increase your magic power. Your offerings are all under my watch. The moment I truly descend, you will receive unparalleled blessings. The cultists chanted even louder. Their master's request seemed to be their greatest motivation. The low-level demons that had been summoned earlier had been greedily devouring the offerings. But now, they were trembling under Kirkener Gizitan's demonic aura. They all knelt before the magic array, sincerely waiting for Kirkener Gizitan's arrival. Riley Dion's jaw dropped at the sight. Was this the person he wanted to take revenge on? Could humans really defeat this kind of demon? Just then, Chun Zhao stood up. Okay, now it's the official start. Start what? Chun Zhao looked back at Riley Dion. Save the world. Chun Zhao raised his right arm. Chapter 3289. The world of fire descended. Boom! Instantly, the entire world was engulfed in flames. The sky was a boundless crimson red. The ground was filled with rivers of lava. Dozens of volcanoes could be seen in the distance. Most of the demons and cultists were instantly vaporized by the heat. Riley Dion was terrified. The cultists and demons had all been vaporized instantly. But the temperature here was indeed the limit. Even the metal boxes under their feet were melting. But what surprised him was that he could feel the heat, but it wasn't unbearable. As a fireman, this heat was still within his tolerance range. Ryrie stared at Chun Zhao in shock. What's going on? That's why I said don't leave my sight. Chun Zhao looked at Kirkener Gizitan. As a demon lord, she was both shocked and furious. She didn't understand what was happening at all. Trap! Damn it, it's a trap, you traitors! Kirkener's huge palm descended from the sky and slammed onto the ground. A few red-clothed priests were instantly slapped to death by Kirkener Gizita. Kirkener looked at Jean C. I want you all to die. 10 black beams shot out of Kirkener's 10 eyes at the same time. Her 10 eyes could move at will as she chased after the cultists. Any cultist who was hit by her black ray would instantly turn into black iron. Chun Zhao raised a shield in front of him. Don't move, Chun Zhao said to Ryrie, turning back. Riley Dion nodded stiffly. The next moment, Ryri's vision blurred. Her ears were bleeding from the loud explosion. Chun Zhao had already disappeared. Kirkendall suddenly stopped his attack. She looked down and saw a hole in her chest. Jean C held the demon's heart in his hand. The dark serum enveloped the heart and devoured it. Kirkener turned his head and grinned at Chun Zhao. "You think I'm only..." Before Kirkendall could finish, the dark serum burst out of her body. "You're the king of wrath." The dark serum flowed back to Chun Zhao's side. Then, an even more turbulent black tide swallowed Kirkener Jessidon. Kirkendall Jessidon wasn't very powerful. Chun Zhao had killed many demon lords in the past. She could only be considered average. The so-called king of evil was just an empty title. Chun Zhao devoured Kirkener Jessidon directly. Kirkener Jessidon couldn't raise Chun Zhao's upper limit. In the end, they would only become nourishment for the darkness origin liquid. Chun Zhao looked around. In the next instant, a rain of fire began to fall from the sky. It was like the end of the world, a complete baptism. Aside from Riley Dion, there was no one else alive. He put away the world of flames. The surroundings regained their calm. An abandoned dock was still an abandoned dock. However, the ground and the containers looked as if they had just been thrown into a volcano and roasted. It had already cooled, but it left behind hardened lava everywhere. When the flame world was put away, it also took away the high temperature. Therefore, the area that was enveloped instantly cooled down. The inner world was a very useful skill. Of course, it was mainly used against high-level enemies, using a small world to limit the area of destruction. He could drag the enemy into his own small world. Riley Dion landed on the ground and looked at the devastated ground. He couldn't imagine such a terrifying demon invasion. It had actually ended in such a short time. "Sorry, it seems like you don't have many enemies left." Chun Zhao looked around. Suddenly, he reached out and grabbed in the distance. Chun Zhao caught a red-clothed priest and tossed him before Riley Dion. "I don't know who he is, but he must be a bad guy. Maybe you can vent on him." The red priest was very lucky. He actually didn't die in that kind of environment. Riley Dion had already lost interest in the cultist. He also knew that the battle just now wasn't of his level. He didn't have the right to interfere. If Chun Zhao wasn't here, he wouldn't even have the right to watch. Whatever. Chun Zhao casually strangled the red priest to death. "Your hatred ends here. Go back to your normal life with your wife. You're still young and can have another child. You can give your daughter's love to your second child." Riley Dion opened his arms and hugged Chun Zhao. "If I'm in trouble again, can I call you?" "Of course." Chun Zhao patted Riley's shoulder. Chun Zhao gave him his personal number. "How do we go back now?" Chun Zhao felt a bit awkward. He'd burned Riley's car. He'd sent Riley to his house. Riley looked at Chun Zhao. "Do you usually save the world like this?" "Actually, not most of the time. Also, this is your compensation." "No, I don't need compensation. You've already helped me a lot. This is for your car. Do you want to go in for a drink?" "No, I'm still busy saving the world." "Then goodbye." In the next few days, Chun Zhao continued to investigate the Three Gods sect. The Three Gods sect was well hidden, but as long as they took action, there would definitely be clues. Not everything could be solved with violence, but he could definitely save the world. This meant that Chun Zhao spent most of his time searching for clues. With the help and analysis of Alinter and Manet, Chun Zhao finally eliminated the other two factions of the Three Gods sect. There might be some who slipped through, but they wouldn't amount to much. After dealing with all the commissions on hand, Chun Zhao heaved a sigh of relief. It wouldn't be long before another pile of missions piled up, but Chun Zhao could finally relax for now. "Hey, Mr. Chun, I'm Ben Gale." "Mr. Ben Gale, hello." "Mr. Chung, the 2 planes you asked us to decorate are already done. When will you come over to take a look and give us some suggestions?" "I don't have time now. I'll send someone over to check. If there's no problem, I'll pay you the rest." It was almost the traditional Chinese New Year again. Chun Zhao didn't plan on returning to China this year. After all, he just screwed Zhang Tianyi over. Chun Zhao didn't know if Zhang Tianyi would screw him over if he went back. This year, he planned to celebrate with his family at home. After 20 days of exchange, The people from the supernatural organization finally came back. Wes said that the exchange was quite successful. He hoped that there would be another opportunity. Chun Zhao didn't dare to agree easily. This time, they were going out for an exchange. He had to handle the entire organization's work alone. He'd almost gone crazy. If he had to do it again soon, Chun Zhao felt that he would really go crazy. Chapter 3290. Chun Zhao arrived at the headquarters of the supernatural organization. West was reporting the details of the conference to him. Chun Zhao stood before the window and looked at the members outside. "How's the difference in power? They're stronger than us," West said. "Is the difference obvious?" "Yes, in terms of individual strength. The gap between our high-end combat power and theirs is still relatively small, but the gap between the middle and low-level combat power is very large. In other words, every one of them is at the elite level, and the gap between the high-end combat power and the middle combat power is not big, but the gap between our low-level combat power is very obvious. They have a very special training method for their new members, which is also the reason for the gap between us." "What training method? Can we replicate it?" West shook his head. "No. How do they do it?" "Every time a newcomer joins, they'll be assigned to another branch to join the teams of the older members. Apart from the captain, no one will know that the newcomer is a newcomer. When carrying out a mission, the newcomer will be assigned to a mission of the same or similar difficulty like the older members. Under normal circumstances, the newcomer will grow rapidly. Isn't that dangerous?" "There's a certain amount of danger, but it's mainly up to the leader of the team to tell me how dangerous it is." Chun Zhao thought for a long time, wondering if the supernatural organization had the same conditions. "President, I've thought about it. This method isn't suitable for the supernatural organization. First, we aren't as big as them. After all, their divisions are connected and don't have complete information sharing. The supernatural organization doesn't have any contact with the other divisions. We're an independent organization. We can't let the other divisions train our members, and they might not treat us with sincerity. Secondly, the other divisions might not be as good as us. Plus, the members we recruit can't compare to the Chinese Special Intelligence Department. This is decided by the environment." Chun Zhao nodded and gave up on the idea. Also, West said, "There's another important topic in the conference. We'll use our spells to trade for theirs. We've traded for over 1,000 spells. Of course, the vast majority of the items exchanged this time were of low to mid-level, and the level of confidentiality was not high. The content of the exchange was roughly the same. After all, no one would take out their trump cards to exchange. Did you get any valuable spells?" "Yes, we did get some. Some of our members improved quite a bit. Moreover, this kind of exchange can also expand our foundation." Both sides had the same idea. After ending the communication with West, Yangling nodded. Chun Zhao entered the Tower of Trials. Once again, Chun Zhao went up from the first floor to the 12th. This kind of intense battle could activate Chun Zhao's status. This allowed him to feel the primordial flame even more clearly on the 12th floor. The primordial flame kept sending all sorts of primitive demonic factors into his body. Then, through layers of screening, he would leave behind something useful for Chun Zhao, which he would then fuse into his body. The change was very, very small. However, this was only a small change. This also ensured that Chun Zhao's consciousness and main genes wouldn't be shaken. After a few hours of practice, Chun Zhao walked out of the Tower of Trials. Every time he came out of the Tower of Trials, he would be full of energy. When he got home, he found that Frigga was still there. "Mr. Chun, it's time. Time is up." "You mean the seal on Mount Olympus has been unlocked?" "Not yet, but it'll be soon," Frigga said. "I feel that the seal on Mount Olympus has started to loosen. The Olympian gods are eager to break the seal. How much time do you have?" "You have 3 days to prepare. You must enter the seal in 3 days." "Got it." Chun Zhao nodded. Frigga and Chun Zhao had waited for the seal to loosen. They mainly hoped that the Olympian gods would use up some of their power when breaking the seal. The seal couldn't be strengthened, so the Olympian gods couldn't avoid appearing. However, how much of the Olympian gods' power could be preserved? Even Frigga couldn't be sure. Old John, time's up. What time? Time to get rich. Oh, you mean the Olympian gods? Yes. How many days? Come and meet me in 3 days. Okay, I'll prepare. That's it for now. I have to inform the others. Then, Chun Zhao called Bifla and 23rd Blood Mary. They'd all been waiting for this moment for a long time. It was an extremely dangerous mission, but danger also meant high rewards. Just like the last time they'd gone to Asgard, everyone could be said to have made a lot of money. At their level, normal forbidden lands or normal adventures couldn't make their hearts race anymore. To them, the so-called dangers were only the difference between 1 and 2 slaps. Only a battle with the gods could make them nervous and give it their all. Even a usually lively old Zhang didn't play around with Chun Zhao. Everyone faced this operation with a 120% attitude. The three arrived in Los Angeles the next day and met up with Chun Zhao. Chun Zhao, you got a lot of benefits from killing those bald donkeys, right? Zhang Tianyi asked. That's not benefits, just compensation, Chun Zhao said disapprovingly. That's the lifeblood of Zen. If that's all Zen has, you Taoists would have devoured them long ago. Chun Zhao didn't believe Zhang Tianyi. We Taoists have been guessing what Zen has been plotting all these years. Tell me, what did you take from them? It's not anything good, Chun Zhao said disapprovingly. To be honest, the soul of the rock was very good for Chun Zhao. Because Chun Zhao could unleash the full power of the rock soul. This was something that the monks couldn't do in the past. The great rock soul was originally imprisoned within their bodies. They had to use a portion of their power to suppress the soul. Chun Zhao and the rock were mutually beneficial. They lived in Chun Zhao's inner world. At the same time, they willingly lent their power to Chun Zhao. He didn't need to force them. Plus, Chun Zhao could use the power of 6 rocks at the same time. In the past, the monks would find it difficult to use just one. This was the difference. As for the smallest golden rock, Chun Zhao didn't plan on using it for now. Chun Zhao didn't plan to use it for now because it still had great potential. It had a chance to evolve into a real mythical rock. Chapter 3291. Greece. A group of people walked out of the airport. Is this Greece? It feels like the air here is made of myths, a woman said. I hope we can really find the mythical ruins this time. Even if we can't find it, we can treat it as a vacation. I don't have that much money to travel to Greece every time. We have high hopes this time. I remember that the statue of Hera I bought last time seemed to have a reaction when I put it on the map. I think the statue of Hera is guiding me. I hope it's really like what you want. This team was made up of strong combat power, the most outstanding alchemists, and the best formation masters. Of course, they were the best at their level. They came from various countries. The best formation master was from the Huaxia, Dao, Yisheng school. His name was Yunyu. The most outstanding alchemist was from England. He was a noble child. His name was Luoan. However, he didn't like an easy life and preferred adventure. There were also 3 spiritualists with top combat power. They were paired, Lillian and Vidal. One was an elementalist, one was an archer, and one was a special spiritualist. They were all disciples of the Dao Yisheng school. Yinyu was the son of the Dao Yisheng school's leader. They played together when they were young. Later, after they left the Dao Yisheng school, they returned to their own residences or clans. However, they didn't lose contact. The first time they worked together was when they were 18 or 19 years old. At that time, Yinyu found an ancient treasure map and contacted them, wanting to uncover the secret of the treasure map together. The few hot-blooded youths embarked on a journey. In the end, it was more daunting than dangerous, and they gained a lot. Later, they worked together many times. They became familiar and trusted each other. At the same time, they became more and more tacit. So now, whenever they had any adventure, they would call the others. They had come to Greece several times. At first, it was a map recorded in ancient Greek. After translation, they learned that it was a place called the Tomb of Olympus. However, they followed the translated route of the map and found nothing. They all knew that the map alone wasn't enough. They still lacked an opportunity. This time, they finally found that opportunity. The statue of Hera. A magic tool bought in a secondhand shop. Yin, you look at those people. Luo and pointed at a few people not far away. One of them wore aviator sunglasses and had his hair combed into a bun. His hair was black and white, and his figure was tall and straight. Don't you think that old man looks like Celestial Master Zhang from Longhu Mountain? What are you thinking? How could Celestial Master Zhang come here? I said it looked like him, but I didn't say it was definitely him. While they were discussing a low voice, those people had already gotten into the car. Is that really not Celestial Master Zhang? Luoan asked. I think it looks quite similar. Even though they were sitting in the car, Luoan couldn't help but ask, you Chinese all look the same. If I say it's not, then it's not. Celestial Master Zhang is such a decent person. He wouldn't dress so fashionably, Yunyu said, rolling his eyes. The team did not stay in the hotel. Instead, he went straight to the Parthenon Temple. This was the starting point of the blueprint. Luoan injected the magic power in his palm into the blueprint. A cloud began to appear on the blueprint. The cloud seemed to be alive, shrouding everyone in it. Then the scenery around them changed. The Parthenon Temple disappeared and was replaced by a vast wasteland. Then the cloud turned into a star chart. Luoan closed his eyes and slowly moved his finger along the trajectory of the star chart. The surrounding scenery also began to pass by quickly. It was as if they were riding an extremely high-speed train. As Luoan's finger moved faster or slower, the scenery that flew by would also speed up or slow down. If Luoan had enough magic power, they could even reach the end of the star chart in an instant. But in fact, the movement of Luoan's finger consumed a lot of magic power. Every minute and second, Luoan was using a huge amount of magic power to maintain their movement. Finally, Luoan's finger stopped, and the group came to an unfamiliar cliff. In front of them was the boundless sea, and in the distance was the shadow of a mountain shrouded in clouds and mist. It was not the first time they had been here. They all suspected that the mountain shrouded in clouds and mist might be the legendary Mount Olympus. They tried to approach the mountain again and again, but to no avail. This was the end of the star chart. If they wanted to get to the mountain, they could only walk. But no matter how they walked, they could never get close to the mountain. After walking for 10 days to half a month, the distance to the mountain didn't seem to be getting closer. So the distance to the mountain was far farther than they thought. Or maybe they were blocked by magic. So if they didn't break this magic, they couldn't really get close to the mountain. Luoan took out the statue of Hera. The statue of Hera didn't need him to input magic power. The moment the statue of Hera was taken out, it suddenly cracked. Everyone was startled, but before they could react, a voice rang out. The fragments suddenly turned into countless spots of light. The spots of light slowly formed the shape of a goddess. My children, you are finally here. Are you here to open a miracle? Who are you? Everyone was surprised and looked at the goddess made of light in front of them in disbelief. Even if it was just made of light, they still felt how incredible the existence they were facing was. Majestic, powerful, surging. When they faced this goddess, they didn't feel like they were facing a person, but more like facing a vast sky or a vast plain. What they felt was insignificance and insignificance. I am Hera, the queen of gods, the merciful god. No need to ask too much. When you open the ruins, you will get all the answers. Everyone looked at each other. But since they were already here, they wouldn't back down. Hera then turned into a spot of light again, and her voice came. You need to pick up the remains of the behemoth on the beach and use them to build a ship. Everyone was a bit dumbfounded. Build a ship? In the end, everyone could only look at Luoan was an alchemist. The only person here who could possibly build ship was him. Luoan scratched his head. I'll try my best. On the beach below the cliff, the remains of the behemoth were everywhere. Huge skeletons were scattered all over the endless coastline. So materials weren't a problem. They easily collected a large number of behemoth bones. Then Luoan began to forge. After you build the behemoth ship, sail west for 7 days. You will see the stars. Then I will tell you what to do next. Chapter 3292. They drifted on the sea for 7 days. On the 7th day, they saw land. They didn't know how long they'd been drifting for. It seemed very far, but it also seemed like they'd floated on the sea for a few days before returning to their starting point. When they landed on land, Hera appeared again. "My children, you've arrived at the foot of Mount Olympus." Everyone was confused. Foot of the mountain? Where was Mount Olympus? They could still see a blurry silhouette in the distance. How come there wasn't anything nearby? "Great goddess, why can't we see Mount Olympus? You're in the grave of the lost. This place will hide the truth. The plane you see is just an illusion. If you want to touch the real Mount Olympus, you can only destroy the bloodthirsty silk-coiled ones here and use their eyeballs to clear the illusion." Hera pointed out the location of the bloodthirsty silk-coiled ones. When they'd heard the name, they'd thought that it was a spider-type magical beast. But when they saw it, they realized that the bloodthirsty silk-coiled ones were actually a giant butterfly magical beast. They defeated the bloodthirsty silk-coiled ones with some difficulty. After plucking out the eyeballs, they injected magic power into the eyeballs. They injected magic into their eyes, and in an instant, the scenery in front of them changed. An extremely majestic mountain appeared in front of them. They couldn't even see the outline of the entire mountain from where they were. Similarly, they couldn't see the peak either. The foot of the mountain was already shrouded in mist. The higher they went, the more blurry it became. They even wondered if this divine mountain could reach heaven. "It's spectacular," Luoan and the others couldn't help but exclaim. "Yes, it's spectacular." Just then, they heard an unfamiliar voice. When they turned around, they saw a few people walking toward them. Wasn't one of them the old man they'd seen the other day? "Celestial Master Zhang? You're Celestial Master Zhang?" Yin finally confirmed that the old man was Zhang Tianyi. The others were also shocked. It really was Zhang Tianyi. In the spiritual world, Zhang Tianyi was almost a legendary figure. They didn't think that they'd actually see him in person one day, and so close too. "Chen Zhao, it's about time." Chen Zhao nodded and flew into the air. Seeing Chen Zhao fly into the sky, the young people couldn't help but be surprised. First of all, being able to fly was a sign of outstanding strength. They thought that Chen Zhao was Zhang Tianyi's junior. Soon, Chen Zhao disappeared from the clouds. "All of you, stand behind us." Come here if you don't want to die," said the 23rd Blood Mary. Everyone looked at the 23rd Blood Mary. For a moment, they did not recognize her. It couldn't be helped. The 23rd generation Blood Mary looked like a 10-year-old girl. Everyone was even more puzzled as to why Zhang Tianyi would bring such a little girl with him. Because of this, they felt even more incredulous. Just then, the statue of Hera suddenly revealed Hera's form. "You filthy, despicable humans. You deserve to die. You deserve to die." Chen Zhao flicked casually and destroyed Hera's form. Mount Olympus was the source of power for the Olympians. But now, Mount Olympus was heavily damaged. At the same time, it was also unprecedented. In the past, no one could cause such damage to Mount Olympus. The young people were all in disbelief. "I thought you could smash Mount Olympus," Zhang Tian said insincerely. "It's not that I can't smash it. If I smash Mount Olympus, where are we going to get our trophies?" "Chen Zhao, what's with that look? I've never seen you do this before." Chapter 3293. Right now, Chen Zhao was in his original form. Yin Yu and Luo were both shocked. What they sensed was the boundless blue dome of heaven, a boundless ocean. What they felt from Chen Zhao was endless. It was as if even Mount Olympus wasn't as eye-catching as this golden body. Just then, Mount Olympus started shaking violently. It was as if the surrounding space had been torn apart. Frigga looked in the direction of Mount Olympus. "It's here. Get ready." Beside Blood Mary, Bader's expression was serious. Suddenly, a black light flashed in the direction of Mount Olympus. The next moment, the black light shot toward everyone. Bader's heart almost jumped out. In that instant, he felt an incomparably terrifying sense of danger. Void parasite. Suddenly, Chun Zhao grabbed forward. Chun Zhao grabbed the black light tightly in his hand. It was an arrow. It was an arrow made of a black plant branch. The black arrow was still vibrating in Chun Zhao's hand. It seemed like it could break free from Chun Zhao's control at any time, and it was aimed at Bader. Chun Zhao shifted the angle. It was still aiming at Bader. The arrow was there for Bader. "Mr. Chun, don't let go," Frigus said hurriedly. "I'll seal it." Bader didn't dare to move until the seal ended. The threat of that insight was simply too great for him. No, it wasn't a threat. It was death. Someone as strong as Chun Zhao couldn't do anything to Bader. Chun Zhao couldn't do anything to Bader. Chun Zhao had beaten Bader up twice, but he couldn't kill Bader. This was something that no one had ever been able to do before. But Bader had done it. Only this small arrow remained. To others, it might be a powerful attack, but to Bader, it was different. He didn't even dare to touch it. He didn't even have the courage to run. Just then, a dozen huge figures appeared in the direction of Mount Olympus. They weren't humanoid. Most of them were monsters. There were many Olympian gods. Apart from the 12 well-known gods, there were also a bunch of messy gods. There was also a mess of gods, and a large number of them were not even human gods. The illusory divine shadows in front of him belonged to the low-level gods with messy authorities and clergies. They were also the vanguard to explore the way. The moment they broke through the seal, they charged at Chun Zhao's group. Chun Zhao clenched his fists, ready for a big fight. At this moment, Bifla said, "Leave them to me." Everyone took a step back and left the battlefield to Bifla. Bifla wasn't careless either. He spread out his hands, and thousands of red-hot chains shot out from his palms. The iron-like chains instantly bound the dozen beasts and dragged them out of the void. Those beast gods were all incomparably shocked and furious. They struggled and attacked Bifla. But when Bifla raised his palms, these beast gods were flung up and down. The chains became tighter and tighter, sinking deep into the bodies of these beast gods. The moment the chains sank in, the chains ignited with scorching flames. Even the gods couldn't bear the pain. Finally, the beast deities stopped struggling, and the chains started to become part of their skin. It was no longer tangible, but like a tattoo, it was branded on the beast god's skin. Bifla retracted the spell. The beast gods turned around and faced Mount Olympus. "Bifla, how did you do it?" "I recently found a method when I was reading ancient books called God Enslavement. I think this method is still lacking, but many of the ideas mentioned in it are correct, so after I learned it, I figured out how to complete this method myself." "Are they enslaved by you now?" "Yes. Don't worry about them betraying you. They can't." The few juniors couldn't close their mouths. Who exactly were these people? They only knew Zhang Tianyi. If it was Zhang Tianyi, they could understand. But why did everyone in this team seem unbelievably powerful? Any random person could enslave a deity? And not just one, but a group of deities. These people were all a bit too powerful. Why hadn't they heard of them before? Actually, it wasn't that they didn't know about Bifla. It was mainly because Bifla was too low profile. The sect of fire was still very famous. Clang! Suddenly, the entire sky shattered like a mirror. In an instant, countless colorful beams of light shot out from the sky. Beams of light shot out from the cracks on the ground. The colorful beams danced in the sky. They filled the sky. Just then, a pair of enormous palms pushed the clouds aside and poked their heads out. The king of the sky, Uranus. Chun Zhao looked at the king of the sky. He was much weaker than Gaia. However, Yunyu, Luoan, and the others were shocked by Uranus' enormous face. They had never imagined that they would be able to witness such a shocking scene one day. The clouds in the sky kept being torn apart. Huge faces poked their heads out of the clouds. All of them were unbelievably big. The 12 Titans. They're the 12 Titans. Apparently, they're all gods from the old era, the descendants of the king of the sky. Just then, a beam of light landed on the ground and turned into a human figure. It was the first god they'd seen, then a second and a third. Soon, the ground was filled with deities. The last ray of white light landed on the ground, and a man with a head full of white hair and a robust appearance appeared. "Your Majesty, We welcome your arrival. The king of Olympus, the father of all gods, Zeus. Zeus looked at Chun Zhao's group. He didn't waste any words. He raised his right arm and a bolt of lightning fell. Zeus grabbed it. Mortal, accept the judgment of God. From the moment Chun Zhao crashed into Mount Olympus, both sides knew that this battle wouldn't end well. Only one side would be destroyed. Chun Zhao's group knew. So did Zeus and the other gods. Yin Yu, Luoan, and the others were dumbfounded. What was going on? Zhang Tiany's group was here to fight the gods of Olympus? They'd thought that Zhang Tiany's group was only here to bully a few weak gods. They didn't expect a bunch of mythical bosses to appear. They felt that the situation was developing in an unpredictable direction. The battle of the gods had begun. The golden light on Chun Zhao's body suddenly intensified. The next moment, some white light appeared in the golden light. Chun Zhao charged at Zeus. Zeus directly shot lightning at Chun Zhao. Chun Zhao didn't stop in the lightning. He charged at Zeus with an unstoppable momentum. Chapter 3294. The lightning couldn't stop Chun Zhao. Chun Zhao couldn't touch Zeus either. Zeus turned into a bolt of lightning and moved away. Chun Zhao was still charging forward. Just then, Zhang Tiany, Bifla, and 23rd Blood Mary's spells all landed on Chun Zhao. Chun Zhao was even faster. His body flashed with rainbow light. Stop him! Zeus' majestic voice rang through the plains. Chun Zhao was still unstoppable. All the Olympian gods in his way would be smashed into pieces by Chun Zhao. Some gods could turn their bodies into nothingness, but others would shatter upon touch. Just then, a golden-haired goddess of war, wearing golden armor and holding a shield and spear, blocked Chun Zhao's way. She threw the spear at Chun Zhao as if she was going to tear the world apart. As Chun Zhao charged forward, he took out his black trident. He smashed the spear into pieces. The goddess of war saw her spear shatter. She raised an eyebrow, but her gaze was still resolute as she blocked Chun Zhao. He raised a shield in front of him. Bang! In the dazzling light, the shield shattered. More than half of the goddess of war's body was destroyed. Chun Zhao swung the black trident again. The goddess of war's body shattered. The next moment, the goddess of war used all her strength to grab the black trident. Let's fall into death together. The goddess of war's divine kingdom also swallowed Chun Zhao. Inside the goddess of battle's holy kingdom, countless heroic spirits rose. They surged toward the goddess of war's collapsing body. The goddess of war also gradually recovered in her divine kingdom. But the next moment, Chun Zhao's black trident smashed down from above. The goddess of war's body collapsed before she could recover. The millions of souls in her divine kingdom also exploded at the same time. A dark red neutron star formed in Chun Zhao's hand. The energy from the dark red neutron star swallowed everything. In the outside world, Chun Zhao only disappeared for a few seconds and then reappeared. Then a ball of nameless flames covered the entire battlefield. It was released from the goddess of war's divine kingdom. When the goddess of war's divine kingdom was destroyed, the dark red neutron star's energy hadn't been completely used up. On the contrary, due to the compression of the divine kingdom, the moment the divine kingdom shattered, all the energy gushed out in an even more violent manner. Several other deities nearby were affected by the shockwaves as they were too close. He didn't stop. He continued charging toward Mount Olympus. That goddess is Athena. Luo uncovered his mouth, his face full of disbelief. Yin Yu and the others nodded blankly. There were only 6 humans on the human side, while there were hundreds of Olympian gods. However, the situation seemed to be completely leaning towards the human side. Of course, they didn't know Frigga and Bader. He only treated them as human powerhouses. Just then, a beam of golden light flashed across the battlefield, chasing after Chun Zhao. Chun Zhao suddenly changed directions, but the golden light still chased after him. Whoosh! The golden light pierced through Chun Zhao's back and chest. Chun Zhao stopped. He looked at his body in disbelief. His body had been pierced. Golden divine power raged in his body. Chen Zhao looked back. It was a very beautiful goddess, Artemis. By then, Artemis had already knocked the second golden arrow and pointed it at Chen Zhao. The moment the bowstring was released, Chen Zhao turned into a beam of light. The arrow pierced through Chen Zhao's chest again. But Artemis' headless corpse also fell to the ground. Suddenly, a shadow covered Chen Zhao. A titan covered in red and gold patterns reached out from the clouds, grabbing at Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao punched with all his strength. The titan's arm turned into a rain of blood. The power didn't dissipate. Instead, it spread up the titan's arm. Its body and head also collapsed. The sky was filled with a scarlet rain of blood, covering the entire battlefield. Chen Zhao no longer charged toward Mount Olympus. Instead, he charged toward the sky. The harassment of the deities and titans made it impossible for him to accumulate enough speed. He had to clear out some of the hindrances first. The battlefield was already dark. Zhang Tianyi, Bifla, and 23rd Blood Mary were also fighting with their lives. Frigga and Bader's situation wasn't ideal. Their battle prowess was not outstanding here. But Zhang Tianyi, Bifla, and 23rd Blood Mary were nearby. They looked out for each other and weren't in danger. Only Chen Zhao was charging forward. The young men were all dumbfounded by what they saw. This place was filled with deities. But that person was ridiculously strong. Even a titan, whose body could blot out the sky, was defeated by him with a single strike. Boom! A giant head with a diameter of 1,000 meters fell from the sky. It created a terrifying impact like a meteor. Some weaker deities were even annihilated by the impact. Suddenly, the sky shone with golden light. Everyone raised their heads to look at the sky. The light around Chen Zhao was even brighter. The power of the 6 rocks poured into Chen Zhao's body at the same time. At the same time, he became one with the golden light. Everyone and all the deities looked up at the same time, their faces filled with disbelief. That feeling was too strange. Chen Zhao's body emitted a strange qi. This qi was assimilating the sky and the earth. After Chen Zhao fused with the power of the 6 rocks, he was also in disbelief. Was he using the power of the rocks to break through the limit? It didn't seem like it. It was just that his power level had increased. He was still in the Ascension realm. But even so, Chen Zhao's power was increasing at an unbelievable rate. Every punch could shatter the sky, and every strike could shatter the earth. What was even more unbelievable was that the power seeping out of Chen Zhao's body was assimilating the surrounding air and matter, forming an incomplete small world. Even though Chen Zhao still had a small world in his body, it was like Chen Zhao could have 2 small worlds at the same time. The 2 small worlds, one inside and one outside, were connected. They complemented each other. But the outside small world wasn't complete. And it wasn't permanent either. Only now did Chen Zhao display his true, overwhelming power. Mother Gaia, answer my call. Your children are about to be slaughtered by this group of humans. A sky titan shouted, but his cry didn't get a response. The next moment, the titan's body disintegrated. His golden blood dyed the clouds red. Suddenly, a black shadow flashed across the sky and attacked Chen Zhao. The black shadow was covered in darkness. The black smoke behind him carried the divine souls of the deities that Chen Zhao had just killed. Hades, king of the underworld. The dead deities were lending their divine power, and even the power of their souls to Hades. Chen Zhao looked back. The 4th turtle's internal alchemy on the black trident in his hand lit up. Chen Zhao threw the black trident with force. The black trident instantly pierced through Hades and the black smoke behind him. At the same time, it carried the power that Hades had gathered and shot toward Mount Olympus with unstoppable force. Chapter 3295. The moment the black trident stabbed into Mount Olympus, all the divinities paused for a moment. Zeus let out an earth-shattering roar. No! Then the earth started shaking and the sky started collapsing. From the cracks in the ground and sky, Many twisted tentacles reached out. Mount Olympus also collapsed with a loud rumble. All the gods became extremely weak, including the last titan in the sky, Uranus. When Mount Olympus collapsed, a body even larger than Uranus crawled out. It was a giant with the lower body of an octopus and the upper body of a human. But he had no facial features. His face was a whirlpool. The surrounding weak gods were sucked into the whirlpool. What's that guy? The 12 titans? The 12 gods? Chun Zhao realized that even Uranus, the first god, was afraid. Just then, the tentacles of the giant god's lower body shot toward Uranus in the sky. It pulled Uranus down from the clouds. "Ah, save me, or else you'll all die," Uranus screamed. His body was rapidly withering. His power was being absorbed by the monster. Chun Zhao landed beside Zhang Tianyi and the others. "Zhang, what's that? Is it a god too? Or is it the secret weapon of the Olympians?" "Secret weapon, my *SS, Zhang Tianyi said. "That's Chaos." "Who? Never heard of him?" "Senior, that Chaos is the legendary origin of the universe. He is also the parent of Gaia, the mother of Earth, and Uranus, the god of the sky. The two first gods are his children," Luo said respectfully. "The beginning is Chaos," Zhang Tianyi said. Zhang Tianyi said, "I didn't expect Mount Olympus to be the seal of Chaos. I don't think we can handle it." Mary, the 23rd blood, frowned. On the other hand, Chun Zhao stared at Chaos. It seemed that he was indeed unstoppable as he devoured the gods. But for some reason, he felt that Chaos power was similar to when he'd opened up his inner world. Bifla's expression was bitter too. He didn't expect such a monster to be hidden among the Olympians. Chun Zhao looked at Zhang Tianyi. "Zhang, you're opening up your inner world, right?" Stunned, Zhang Tianyi looked back at Chun Zhao in surprise. He vaguely understood what Chun Zhao meant, because Bifla and the 23rd Blood Mary hadn't started developing their inner worlds yet. So, they didn't know what Chun Zhao meant. But Zhang Tianyi knew. "Sage, Chun Zhao, do you have a way to deal with this guy?" "As long as your level is high enough," Chun Zhao said. "You definitely have enough. Does the Heavenly Master have enough too?" "There's no hurry. Let's wait until he absorbs all the Olympian gods," Zhang Tianyi said. The last Olympian god, Zeus. At this moment, he was bitterly holding on. "Chaos, return to where you belong. Scram back to the chaos." Mount Olympus was the source of power for the gods. It was all because of the existence of Chaos. The gods were parasites on his body. Now that Chaos was awake, it meant that the gods were weaned. Although Zeus was the most powerful, he had ultimately lost his source of power. His remaining divine power was not enough to hold on for too long. No matter how powerful Zeus was, he was still a natural counter to Chaos. Most of his divine power came from Chaos. In the past, when Chaos was in a deep sleep, the Olympian gods naturally took whatever they wanted. But now, Chaos had awakened, and the power that the Olympian gods had stolen was naturally recovered by Chaos. Suddenly, red threads of divine power wrapped around Zeus' body. Of course, these divine threads weren't meant to help Zeus. Everyone looked at the 23rd Blood Mary in surprise. Then, they saw Zeus' divine soul being pulled out by the 23rd Blood Mary. Under normal circumstances, the 23rd Blood Mary might not be a match for Zeus. But Zeus had just come out of the seal, so his power was greatly weakened. Now, he was faced with chaos absorption. Zeus' power dropped again and again. He didn't even have 10% of his full power. Then, the 23rd Blood Mary ambushed him from behind. In shock, Zeus' body was devoured by chaos. Meanwhile, his divine soul was pulled out by the 23rd Blood Mary directly. Just then, Chun Zhao and Zhang Tianyi ran toward chaos at the same time. To others, the chaos might be a terrifying monster. Even the gods would be afraid of the chaos. But to Chun Zhao and Zhang Tianyi, it was a rare tonic. A super tonic. Even Chun Zhao would go crazy for it. The size of the inner world would increase one's burden. Even for Chun Zhao, the size of his inner world was limited. At the same time, the first thing he had to face was the chaos. just like how Pangu split the sky and earth and split the chaos. Opening the inner world was also splitting the chaos, or rather, refining it. Zhang Tianyi was still trying to figure it out. Chun Zhao had already formed his small world, but the border of the small world was still chaos. With every bit of chaos that was refined, the rules of the small world would be one step closer to perfection. In other words, chaos could evolve into rules. It could also be said that it was the process of creating order from chaos. Opening the chaos at the border of the small world was far less effective than the chaos before him. Perfecting the rules of the small world without expanding its size would be much more effective. Chun Zhao had estimated that if he wanted the rules of his small world to be completely perfected, his small world would need to be hundreds of times larger. Even he might not be able to handle it. But with the chaos before him, it was completely different. It was even more important to Zhang Tianyi. He could grasp the rules of the inner world from the chaos before opening his inner world. This would allow him to be more relaxed when opening his inner world. Chun Zhao dodged a tentacle that was tens of thousands of meters long that waved in front of him. He raised his arm, and the tentacle was cut off. Chun Zhao reached out and grabbed. The tentacle was sucked into his hand and then thrown into the small world. On the other side, Zhang Tianyi was like a treacherous leech. He silently attached himself to chaos back and secretly absorbed chaotic aura. The 23rd Blood Mary and Bifla looked at each other. They could both sense that Chun Zhao and Zhang Tianyi might have discovered something good about chaos, but they didn't know what it was either. Of course, they couldn't just watch. The two followed, although they couldn't directly absorb the chaotic aura like Chun Zhao and Zhang Tianyi. At the very least, they could leave some bits and pieces and then seal them. Chapter 3296. Chaos had absolute control over the Olympian gods. This was because most of the Olympian gods' power came from chaos. But for others, they could only use the poisonous chaotic energy. Normal people couldn't handle the chaotic energy unless they were made of earth or stone. If not, then they would become earth or stone. Apart from Chun Zhao and Zhang Tianyi, who refined the chaotic energy directly. Chun Zhao's small world was spinning furiously. It kept replenishing the chaotic energy and then being refined by Chun Zhao. Chun Zhao realized that after refining, the chaotic energy didn't directly turn into the laws of the world. Instead, it turned into a few wisps of clear energy that either merged with the world or the mountains and rivers. If one only looked at the structure of the small world, there were no changes. But Chun Zhao could clearly feel that. His small world had a sliver of order. If one looked at Chun Zhao's small world from humans' point of view, it was basically hell. It was basically hell. Humans would never be able to survive in such a world. Chaotic energy was everywhere. Flames collided and exploded. High temperatures swept the entire world. Only the 6 rocks' souls rested here. But as the wisps of clear energy merged, the small world seemed to calm down. The spinning fireball in the sky no longer spewed out turbulent flames. The ground no longer split open easily. There was also an even more obvious change. The power of the world was more abundant now. Chun Zhao stopped dodging chaos attacks. Instead, he charged straight at chaos. Chun Zhao and chaos collided. The sky and earth were collapsing. Chaos was the ruler of this world. At the same time, he was the center of it. It was like the eye of a formation. When the eye of the formation was attacked, the entire formation would naturally shake violently. To be honest, chaos power was definitely above everything else. Even Chun Zhao, Zhang Tianyi, Bifla, and the 23rd Blood Mary together might not be as strong as him, because chaos had already created this world. No, it should be said that this world had created chaos. The birth of a world didn't necessarily have to have a mind or a body first. For example, Chun Zhao first opened up his inner world and then started refining the chaos. Zhang Tianyi first refined the chaos and then opened up his inner world. This world was far more complete and vast than Chun Zhao's small world. However, Chaos thoughts were too simplistic. It was just like the Earth's world will. The Earth's world will was very powerful and complete, but it was also very singular. There were no emotional thoughts, and there was no complex logical thinking. Just like a scientist once said, if logical thinking really existed in the world, then humans would have been extinct a long time ago. Chaos' simple way of thinking meant that he would not have any complicated attacks. Perhaps in the past, he did not need to think logically. Because he had no natural enemies. Gods do not need to think. Compared to the Olympian gods, Chaos was the true god. The Olympian gods were just parasites. Chaos was getting weaker and weaker, or rather, weaker and weaker. He had no concept of weakness. However, his body had clearly shrunk. Chen Zhao had been greedily plundering Chaos' aura. Zhang Tianyi couldn't fight and devour like Chen Zhao. However, he was also trying his best to digest the primal chaos energy. On the third day, everyone suddenly felt an unusual aura emanating from Zhang Tianyi. Everyone's eyes were focused on Zhang Tianyi. Zhang Tianyi's body was enveloped by a gorgeous radiance. Countless Taoist seals appeared around the radiance, especially Bifla and 23rd Blood Mary. Ascension. Celestial Master Zhang has actually reached Ascension now. They looked at Chun Zhao and then at Zhang Tianyi. Congratulations. Ha! Congratulations to you too. The divine light on Zhang Tianyi's body was restrained, but the transformation had not stopped. I'm only half a step into Ascension. I can't compare to you. Right now, Zhang Tianyi had only opened up an internal world. Back then, Chun Zhao's internal world had operated on its own before he had truly reached Ascension. Zhang Tianyi had opened up an internal world, but it could not operate on its own. Thus, although his cultivation had improved greatly, he was still not a true Ascension. Bifla and 23rd Blood Mary were in high spirits. Clearly, they also realized the benefits this had brought to Chaos. Unfortunately, they hadn't opened up an internal world and were still figuring it out. To them, the primal chaos energy was a lethal poison. Even they couldn't handle the primal chaos energy. Thus, they could only use containers to store the primal chaos energy. They weren't like Chun Zhao and Zhang Tianyi, who could directly absorb and refine it. However, there was a limit to the number of containers. They'd brought many containers, but they would eventually run out of them. 7 days and 7 nights. Looking at Chaos, which was becoming smaller and smaller, Chun Zhao was now the size of a mountain. Zhang Tianyi moved even faster. More than half of the primal chaos energy in Chaos had been plundered by Chun Zhao. Chun Zhao slowed down. Chaos is too small. Chun Zhao had no intention of stopping. Just then, Bifla suddenly said, Chun Zhao, stop and leave a seed. Chun Zhao and Zhang Tianyi were both stunned. They looked at Bifla. If we completely destroy him now, there won't be any in the future. Give him some time to recover, Bifla said. Chun Zhao then looked at Zhang Tianyi. Although Zhang Tianyi still wanted to continue, he still hesitated and stopped. The 23rd Blood Mary naturally stopped as well. How do we split it? Before our realms are up to par, you and Celestial Master Zhang will split the harvest between you and him. Give him 10 years to cultivate, and then whoever comes to reap the harvest will be yours. The second 10 years will be swapped with someone else. If Bifla and I haven't reached the corresponding realm by the third 10 years, then we'll continue taking turns. If one of us reaches your current realm, then the third 10 years will be given to the third person, and so on. Sure. Chun Zhao nodded first. Chaos was too weak now. There was no point in devouring more. It was better to keep him as a seed. Every 10 years, she would come to visit him. If he was completely destroyed now, the world would also collapse. As for how to rotate and who came first, they could sit down and talk. It was mainly Chun Zhao and Zhang Tianyi who would talk. They were the only ones to benefit now. Although it was only a verbal agreement, it was more binding than most contracts. Their small group was united by their credibility. Unless, one day, a benefit that no one could refuse appeared. Only then could this small group collapse. At least for now, their relationship was still very stable. that you're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.